and her mother, Donna, are suing Kiana's aunt, Rhonda Battle, for the return of property left behind after Kiana was kicked out of her home.
All rise. That's case number 543 on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Battle.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Brown, this is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your sister.
Yes.
And this is your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
According to what I gather from your complaint, there came a time when you moved and your daughter, who was a senior in high school, would have had to have traveled 2 hours each way to school.
Yes.
Your sister, who had just purchased a home close by to the school, volunteered to take your daughter in and have her live with her so that her commute would be an easy one to school. You accepted, and your daughter went to live in her house. And she lived there for several months. Is that what I gather?
A few months, yes, ma'am.
Then something happened involving a bank account, money that was being withdrawn from your account by some sort of link that had been set up erroneously. When she was drawing money out, it wasn't supposed to come out of your account, but it did, and there was some problem with the bank. In any event, you left, and it is your claim that your sister refused to give your daughter back her property. That's what you're suing her for.
Yes, ma'am.
Your sister says that in her counterclaim, you owe her for some collect calls that were received by your daughter from her boyfriend who was in jail, and lost wages nonsense. I don't know what that's about. Forget that. Anyway, that's your counterclaim. What property do you say your sister still has at her house?
Everything Kiana owns.
Just a second. I asked you specifically what you think she has there.
Bed.
Just a minute. Bed. Do you have the bed?
Yes, ma'am.
That goes back. What else?
TV, DVD player.
Shh. When did she purchase it?
About 5 years ago.
Okay, do you have that?
No, ma'am.
Where is it?
She took it. I don't know where it is.
Well, let's go through this very carefully. What property do you have in your house? And let's be very careful about it. What property do you have in your house that belongs to your niece?
Okay. The reason why a bed was still remaining in my home is because Kiana still frequented my house, but according to living things, she was no longer living there. So I do...
No longer living there when?
Mid-November.
Where did she go in mid-November?
She went home with her mom.
Why?
I didn't go home with my mom. I was still living with her. Our Christmas break, I went home with my mom for 2 weeks.
Christmas break started when?
It started December 21st.
When did you start living with your aunt?
I started living with my aunt in the summer of August.
So you were there August, September, October, November, and according to December?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did you give your sister towards your daughter's support?
Nothing. She said she didn't need anything, but I did.
Just a second. So, for the 5 months that your daughter lived there, according to you, you gave her no support for your child. Do you work?
Yes, I work.
You have other children?
Yes, I do.
How many other children?
I have 2 other children.
How old are they?
14 and 16.
And who else lives in your home?
My boyfriend.
And he works?
He's unemployed at the moment.
Does your daughter's father provide her with child support?
He's deceased.
So she gets Social Security disability?
Up until last month.
She got, while she was living with your sister, Social Security disability?
Yes.
In what amount?
$93.
How often?
Every month.
Okay. So the $93 a month that your daughter receives from Social Security, you did not turn over to your sister?
No.
Any reason for that?
Well, I purchased deodorant, bus pass, any necessities that she needed, I provided for her, as well as groceries. I did take her to the grocery store, let her get groceries whenever she needed.
I'm just finding out what's going on here because I have to make a determination who's lying and who's telling the truth.
Your Honor, I have proof as well. Miss Battle is lying. Kiana never moved out of her residence. Kiana was thrown out on January the 18th of 2008 after the incident at the bank. I went to Rhonda. She called me, first of all, irate. I was at work. I told her, I will call you when I calm down because she upset me. I got off work early. I went home, called Miss Battle, asked her what was going on. She informed me that her checking account card and Kiana's savings account card were linked together. So I told her I needed to meet her at the bank so I can find out for myself from the bank. Got to the bank, spoke to a tailor. He told me 3 times in front of Miss Battle and Kiana that the 2 cards were not linked together. So at that point, I told Rhonda I'm not writing a check because they said they weren't linked together. We proceeded to leave, driving down the street, same street that Rhonda lives on. I see her throwing my daughter's things in the street. I pull over, ask her, what is she doing? She tells me Your daughter stole my money. I stated to her, what did the bank tell you? At that point, she lunged at me and attacked me in my face. And as she attacked me, I grabbed her hand as it was raking down my face. My mouth was open. Her fingers were stuck in my mouth. I grabbed her hand. She pulled my hair, so I pulled her hair.
Oh, that all very unbecoming behavior.
Yes.
It ultimately turned out, Ms. Brown, that the bank had made a mistake and that the cards were linked. Just a minute. Ultimately, the bank called you and said, oops, sorry, we made a mistake. Were in fact linked. The money that your daughter was taking out, she was taking out of your sister's bank account.
Yes.
So that she was right. So that the bad behavior that erupted after you went to the bank and they gave you erroneous information.
But that is incorrect, Your Honor. I have the bank statement with the date and the time that we both went to the bank showing that the accounts, that the money was taken out the account. I have that statement.
I understand that,
We're
but
not
she says that when you
disputing
went to the bank and the two of you spoke to a teller,
Yes.
the idiot teller said to you, no, that's not true, they're not linked.
No, Your Honor, that is not true.
What did the teller
tell
tell
you?
you?
Did not have a chance to explain any of that to us.
What were you told when you left the bank?
And initially, when we left the bank, the teller was undetermined. We didn't get any answers. She walked out.
Just a second. She says the teller said no, they weren't. Turned out that they called her
2 weeks later.
I asked them to call her because she was calling the bank. The bank manager called me personally and said that Ms. Brown was pretending to be me. There was someone pretending to be me. She wanted me to come in.
Listen, I don't have to go there. It's
Right.
not necessary. We're just saying it turned out that you were right.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was wrong. But you were both wrong for having escalated this thing into something that was pretty ugly.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when she was throwing your daughter's things out on the lawn in front of her house, what was she throwing out?
Her bras, her underwear. She had her a whole stack of her jeans that she grabbed from the
And what
closet.
did you do with them?
I didn't pick the stuff up. I was asking Rhonda. As I was talking
Just
to
a
Rhonda,
second.
she
So-
was picking it up, throwing it in her trunk, and she closed her trunk down.
Who did?
Miss Battle.
Why would she throw it out and then put it in her car?
Because she didn't want us to get it.
Nah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have a problem believing both of you. I really do. I think that the two of you are so invested in being bitter with each other that you just are prepared to say anything that's necessary. Both of you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kiana Brown says her aunt, Rhonda Battle, won't return her belongings. Rhonda is accusing Kiana of stealing money from her bank account and is countersuing for lost wages and a phone bill.
Listen to me, Miss Brown. Let me tell you what's distressing to me. What's distressing to me is that, according to your daughter, for the 5 months that she lived with your sister, and your sister took care of her, provided a roof over her head, provided her food and snacks and milk and juice, whatever, light, air, everything else. Put your hand down. Put your hand down. You were receiving money from the government that should have gone to your sister. I'm telling you it should have gone to your sister because you were not providing a home for your daughter, who was being cared for by another person. That person should have had the support that the government was providing. That alone, according to your daughter, is $500. Now, I have to make a judgment as to who's telling me the truth. Your sister, who provided a home free of charge for her niece in order to make her niece's life more comfortable, or you, who got money from the government, did not send it where it should have gone. You say there's $5,000 worth of property that your daughter had at your sister's house.
And I have a witness to that, my other sister, who really doesn't want to be here to testify, but she is willing to tell the truth because my daughter never moved from Rhonda's house.
Whether she moved or not, I don't believe that you had $5,000 worth of property at your sister's house. What?
I had DVD players worth $200, iPods that I bought over a period of time. I love Jordans and Nikes. $400 worth of shoes.
You had a DVD player?
Yes, ma'am. I had.
And you had an iPod?
I had DVD players, iPods.
You had a DVD player?
Yes, ma'am. Portable.
Not players. You had a DVD player?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you purchase it?
I actually got it for Christmas in this Christmas from my mother's boyfriend.
How much do those things cost? I have no idea.
They cost about $200 and
you had an iPod?
$277, $250.
You had an iPod?
I had an iPod, and it cost $170.
Okay.
You have a digital
A shuffle and my digital camera, and I had Jordans. I had Jordan 1 Retro 1s, Jordan Retro 4s, Jordan Retro 13s.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They're
Jordans are a pair of sneakers, Judge.
they're shoes, tennis
Retros
shoes.
cost
Right.
These kids spend a
Your
lot
Honor,
of money.
Ms. Brown is elaborating on items that she does not have and did not have in my home.
Your Honor, my daughter's father is deceased. She had memorabilia, pictures, wedding tapes. She had jewelry. She didn't receive anything but what she had on her back.
Do you have any of this memorabilia of hers?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Did you have in your house?
At one point, I did.
And what happened to it?
When Kiana moved out in November, because of the phone bills, which is my counterclaim, if I may.
Go ahead.
While Kiana was living in my home, she was accepting collect calls announced to me from her boyfriend in juvenile hall. She ran up my phone.
Who's the boyfriend?
His name is Jelante.
And why were you accepting these collect calls from him?
I actually paid that off with the money I earned from work. I paid everything off.
She never
to
had
Miss
permission
Battle.
to accept calls.
Who did you pay?
I paid Miss Battle the same day that we went to the bank and opened the account.
Well, wait just a second. When did you pay her? Give me the date. Give me the month.
It was when I first got my job. It was my first check that I earned. I'm not sure when.
Give me the month.
I started working in October.
So you got your first check and you paid her for these collect calls, so that would have been in October.
Yes, ma'am.
She says she gave you a check to cover some of those calls, some or all of those calls, sometime in October. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, she did not.
Okay.
In fact, they eventually cut off the phone, and it went to collections, which was very upsetting.
Can I see them, please?
Yes, ma'am. She admits to having a relationship with the boy in jail. So.
Your Honor, when Rhonda called me and told me Kiana was accepting collect calls from her boyfriend from juvenile hall, I told Rhonda that Kiana needs to be responsible. Her first check, Rhonda took her to open up a savings account.
You weren't there. Don't tell me.
I talked to her.
You weren't there. Don't tell me.
Well, she told me that she paid her the money because I asked her.
You know something? I have a problem believing both of you. I really do. I think that the two of you are so invested in being bitter with each other that you just are prepared to say anything that's necessary. Both of you. I do believe that your sister took some stuff because she was furious, that she says that you were assaultive to her. She said that you scratched her face, that she couldn't go to work.
I have
she was,
proof.
Just a minute. I'm telling you what she says. And because she says that, whether it's true or it's not true, I assume she believes that that's what happened. And you said she pulled my hair. I did what I had to do to defend myself. Probably shouldn't have stopped the car at that point. You probably should have just gone to the police and said her stuff is outside and I don't want to get involved with it because my sister's too angry. But there was a time when your sister was very loving and very supportive of both you and your daughter.
And me, her.
Just a second. Did you ever take care of her children in your house?
Yes, I've taken her son when he was 2 weeks old. She was tired, needed some help.
How long did he stay with you?
Every other weekend sometime.
Oh, listen, we're not talking about the same thing. We're talking about having a teenage child living with her, a child who has limited judgment if she's got a boyfriend in Folsom, juvenile detention. Well, that's where the collect calls come from, Folsom, California.
Okay.
Right? So a teenager with limited judgment living in her house because it's more convenient for her to get to school. That is not something that somebody does who's a bad person. So clearly, something happened between the two of you. What got in between the two of you was a teenager. That's what got in between the two of you. And a teenager who inadvertently got some funds taken out of an account that shouldn't have been. You did not support your sister when she said it happened. I mean, I got what? Don't show me receipts. You didn't say to your sister, look, I don't know what happened. Whatever happened, I'll take care of it if that's what happened. You said, prove it to me. Meet me at the bank. You got to the bank, and the bank didn't right away say, listen, we made a mistake. So you said, you see, my daughter was right. You were wrong. You accused her of taking money out of your account, and that was wrong. And you left. Turned out, she was right. But what got in between you two, formerly loving sisters, because you used to take care of her baby, she took care of your bigger baby, turned into an ugly, vicious situation. Ugly and vicious because she tried to do something that was good and positive for your daughter, and because of circumstances over which neither one of you had control, but over which both of you acted badly.
Your Honor, once I found out, I went immediately and I paid that bill.
I got you. The damage was already done. The fight had already taken place.
Yes, ma'am.
The scratching had already taken place. The hair pulling had already taken place.
Yes, ma'am.
She had already tossed out your daughter's stuff because she was angry, tossed it out, sold it, whatever, and she probably, if it took 2 weeks for the bank to come up with the ultimate solution, which was they were wrong, it was probably, if she did sell some property that belonged to your daughter, probably within that 2-week period that she did it until the bank notified her that you would come in and made restitution on that account. I also, what?
Your Honor, I also have documentation from Kiana's school where this incident has really brought emotional distress from her teacher.
Listen, I'm sure about that.
I also have receipts where I had to replace eyeglasses.
It's enough.
Okay.
It's enough. You got to let it rest.
But I don't have nothing. She has all my stuff.
I don't think she has your stuff anymore.
I had DVD players that I bought that my mom helped me buy. Everything that I ever owned. Everything from my mom's house.
Why do you think she would do that?
Because she thought I stole her money, which I didn't. And we have receipts saying we paid her back. I have receipts. I had to go buy all new stuff.
Just a second. You paid her back for what?
For the money that they said that was taken off of my card.
Just a minute. You were using a credit card?
No, it's a bank debit card.
A savings account card.
And you had money in your savings account?
Yes, ma'am.
So instead of taking the money out of your savings account, they were taking it out of her checking account?
Yes, ma'am.
Over what period of time?
They said it was for, like, I just barely got the card. I was supposed to have first card come, but I guess she said she had it in her safe, so she ordered another card. And so when she finally gave it to me, it was open and everything. So I was like, okay, you know, I finally got my card. You know, I was still putting money. It's my senior year. You know, it's my year to be 18, and I can't do nothing because I have to buy all new stuff. I can't really concentrate on school because
Well, start concentrating on school. This is just stuff. They're just things.
But
These are things. Very unfortunate.
My dad pictures. My dad is dead.
Well, if you had those things and if you no longer have them, Miss Battle, because you got angry with your sister and you got angry with your niece and in a fit of anger you threw them out. If you threw those things out, that was absolutely a terrible thing to do. You understand that?
If I done that, that would have been a terrible thing to do, Your Honor.
Yeah.
But those things were not in my home.
The things that are packable should be put in a box and shipped to them. The bed, if you want it, you'll have to arrange for a marshal to be there to escort you in to pick it up. Okay. So those things are going to be returned to you. I'm awarding you $1,500 for clothes and the replacement value for an iPod, DVD player, some sneakers, etc. $500 for punitive damages because I do believe that you threw away the pictures and her memorabilia, which are irreplaceable because you were in a bad mood. That's $2,000. Now, I was going to deduct the $500 that I think that you should have paid to your sister for the support of your daughter for the 5 months that you allege she was there. Instead, I think that you should take $500 out of your pocket and add that to your daughter's losses, which would make it $2,500 that she has to spend to replace her stuff. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And on your counterclaim, Miss Battle, I don't think that you had any losses whatsoever, and I do believe that this young lady paid you for the phone bill, so your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Party Judge.
Mellinger is suing her son's former friend, 20-year-old Kenny Scott, for a loan for a motel room.
Is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
Just the one, sir, ma'am.
Doesn't he have long pants?
He does, Your Honor, but he just flew in from Tucson where he's working out in the field and he's staying in a motel, so he has limited access to clothes other than his work clothes.
Could you bring him a pair of long pants?
But I just...
I mean, he's not going to the beach.
I know, and I apologize. Okay. I just wasn't thinking.
Ms. Mellinger, this is your complaint. Mr. Scott is a friend of your son's. Are you wearing long pants?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, the two of them went off oil drilling something, got a job someplace,
Correct.
and they were rooming together. And according to you, you made a loan to Mr. Scott in the amount of $500 because he was short on cash. Stand up on your own 2 feet with your long pants, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott says that you sent money, but you sent money at your son's request to your son. There was never an agreement by him to pay you back. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is your mother?
Yes, this is my mom, Charlotte.
Okay. Where did you go to work, Mr. Scott?
Well, at the time we were stationed in Nevada, and then the following hitch we were supposed to go down to Tucson.
And where is your home?
I live in Spokane, Washington.
How old are you?
20.
Were you paying your own way when you went to do this oil drilling?
Yes, I was.
You paid your own rent?
Not at home, no.
I'm talking about when you lived with him, when you were working. You were living together, correct, in a motel?
Correct.
Who was paying the bill?
He was.
Why?
Because I was unemployed before that, and we agreed that we would split the motel costs after I got paid, and I hadn't got paid until 2.5 weeks into the hitch.
Okay, and once you got paid, did you give him back the money?
No. Payments, and...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder. Now, you went to live with Dustin and you had an agreement, and your agreement with Dustin was, quite reasonably, that you would go to this place where you could both work and make a good living, make some money, and that you would split the room. But you didn't have any money.
Right.
So what Dustin does is he calls his mother and says, Mom, Kenny doesn't have any money. So I'm going to need some money to tide us over.
We talked about this agreement before we even left town. I said, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to not have any food. I'm going to need some help.
And?
He didn't help me with food or anything. He just paid for the hotel room, gave me a place to sleep.
Who paid the rest of the money? Your mother?
My mom had wired me some money for food.
How much did your mother wire you? No, don't look at her. I'm asking you, how much did your mother wire you?
$200.
About $200. And I'm sure your mother has proof of that, right?
Yes.
Right?
I Western Union the money and tried to get the receipt from them, and we didn't have time to get that.
Baloney. How much was the motel room?
Well, the first one we stayed at was a little higher price.
How much was the hotel room?
It's about $25 a night.
And how many nights were you there?
The first one we were there maybe about 4 or 5, and then we switched over because that hotel was run down.
Stand up. No, I can't stand to look at your knees. Over here. $25 a night. What was the second room?
The second room was the same. $25 a night, 25.
And how many nights in total were you there?
The second room?
Both rooms.
Both rooms.
Dustin?
Okay. The first hotel was about 5 days, and the second hotel about 21 days in the second hotel, something like that.
So you worked a total of 26 days?
Yes.
$650 plus tax, right? So it probably comes to close to $800. Did you, in fact, give Dustin back $400?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, it was told to me that I owed his mother. I did not owe Dustin.
You owed somebody for half the motel room.
I realize that.
So my question is, why didn't you pay it to either Dustin or his mother?
I started to pay it to his mother.
You did?
She agreed that $100 a month would work, and I gave her $100
good.
cash.
Right.
And next thing I knew, I had a letter in the mail saying we're going to court.
Did he give you $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am, he did give me $100 in cash.
Did you write 2 checks to Mrs. Mellinger
Yes, I did.
on an account that didn't have any money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't encourage him. He did the wrong thing. You're 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a debt in this world, you're supposed to repay it. You're not supposed to take money from strangers and then make them enemies by not paying them back. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
The quickest way to lose a friend is to loan them money. I want you to remember that forever.
I will.
If you're a good guy and you lend somebody money, you lend a friend money, there's only one thing that I know for certain. You're going to lose that friend and you're going to be the bad guy. That's a lesson your mother should have learned a long time ago.
Your Honor, I've told Dustin that time and time again, but I am the guilty one here.
Well, you're the guilty one.
I
Because
didn't
here's
do
a
what I
young man
normally do.
who has a mother. If he needed money, he should have called his mother.
Right.
Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
Diana Maddox is suing her ex-boyfriend, Charles Darnell, for the return of Christmas gifts she left in his home. Charles says the gifts went missing.
Ms. Maddox, according to your complaint, you dated the defendant for many months. And the beginning of December of last year, you went Christmas shopping together. You purchased some items, some of which you left at his house. Those items that you left in his house, according to you, were Christmas presents for your grandchildren.
Yes.
And some other items. Sometime in mid-December, you broke up. And you claim that Mr. Darnell refuses to give you back the property that you left at his house. Mr. Darnell says that he has none of your property, that you must have come to the house to get it because you had a key to the house, and after you broke up, you came home, found your stuff gone. So he assumes that you took the Christmas presents, and that one of the items that you're suing for is a welder.
Yes.
And the welder, he says, was a gift to him from you.
No.
So let's start with the welder, so that would make things easy. When, Mr. Darnell, did you get the welder?
Sunday, December 3rd.
Now, was that a Christmas present?
Yes, it was.
Okay, tell me the circumstances surrounding that, Mr. Darnell.
We had went Christmas shopping. I had previously, on November 24th, I had paid to have a remote starting system put on her car for her Christmas present, and this was in return for my Christmas present.
So you had a remote put in her car. How much was that?
$187.20.
And how much was the welder?
I don't remember the exacts, but I would say the welder was in the $120 range. plus there was some accessories bought with it.
$178.75, Your Honor.
Now, tell me about this remote starter that he put in your car in November.
I asked for a Christmas gift of the remote start for my car.
And he put that in?
He did.
So he put that in as a Christmas present to you?
Yes.
And you bought this welder as a Christmas present for him?
No, I bought the welder as a Christmas gift for my son.
I don't believe you.
My son requested it.
Mr. Darnell, when she gave you the welder, what did she say?
Merry Christmas.
That's... Your Honor, that's not
true. Was it unwrapped?
It had never been wrapped.
Okay, let's leave out the welder for a moment, Miss Maddox. Let me hear about the Christmas presents.
On November 4th is when I actually started my Christmas shopping, and we had went to Sam's Club together, and for my 2 grandchildren, I had bought 2 TJ Berry Tales. They're animated learning teddy bears. The teddy bears actually read to my grandchildren. I purchased them for $128.10.
Why did you leave it at his house?
Because the animated teddy bears, some of the stuff was electrical, and I didn't want to leave it out in my vehicle overnight.
Okay, I see. Now, all the stuff that you purchased, that you left at his house, comes to how much, exclusive of the welder?
$479.30, or 38 cents, excuse me.
On what date did you break up?
December 9th.
According to your complaint, you tried to work things out on December 17th.
I had called and left a message on December 16th to talk to him.
Mr. Darnell.
I returned the phone call. She was argumentative, and I just didn't feel that I wanted to contend with it at that time.
Or at all?
Or at all.
So you didn't see her on December 17th?
No.
What happened on December 9th, sir?
We were supposed to go to her job Christmas party that evening, which I had already been to my business and taken care of stuff, and I got a call back that I had to go back due to an equipment problem. I tried to get a hold of her for over an hour, and she couldn't be gotten a hold of, and I finally did get a hold of her and told her that I couldn't go to the Christmas party, and she become upset about it. So I just finally told her that I think we needed to part company.
Okay. Now, at that time, these Christmas presents were at your house?
Yes, they were.
Where were they in the house?
They were in the living room.
And when did you find them missing, sir?
December the 18th.
Tell me about that.
I got home from work at approximately 4 p.m. and I noticed the stuff was gone, and there was a few of her personal effects that was gone out of the bathroom. And
what kind of personal items were in the bathroom?
Basically just cosmetic stuff.
And that was gone?
Yes.
Other than that, did she have anything else in your home?
No.
No clothes?
No.
So just the Christmas presents and some items in the bathroom, and
Correct.
that was gone. And when for the first time, Mr. Darnell, did Miss Maddox call you and say she wanted these Christmas presents?
On Thursday, December 21st.
Where did she reach you?
She called me on my cell phone.
And what did she say to you?
That she wanted her belongings back, and I asked her how I can give something back that I don't have.
And what did she say?
She said I was a liar. So the next thing I know, she was at my house with a Muskingum County deputy. She tried to make the deputy let her into my home, and I wouldn't let her in the home. And then he asked me about the welder. I said, yes, I do have the welder, but it was given to me as a gift. And he basically told her that was the end of it because it was given to me as a gift.
You have the police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it, please.
It's not actually a report. It's a log where they showed up.
When you called the police, Miss Maddox, to accompany you, what did you tell them?
I told them that I saw him loading things into his car, and I needed assistance to make sure that he didn't take off with the teddy bears. I thought it was the TJ Berry Tales.
When did you see him putting things in the back of his car?
On the 21st of December. I had called him, left him a message. He called me back, told me I would never get my belongings back. I had 3 CDs in my car. I didn't want.
That was on the 21st?
This is on the 21st. So I went to his house anyway. I handed him the CDs because I didn't want them. I said, could I please get my stuff? And he said, you'll never get your stuff. So I left. I went to some pawn shops. Hoped maybe he had sold them. I could maybe buy them back for my Christmas presents. And they wasn't at the pawn shops. So there's a school behind his house, and for some reason, I pulled behind there, and I saw him loading 2 boxes into the back of his car. And I thought they were the TJ teddy bears. I really wanted them for my grandchildren. So I called the deputies to help me get them.
Did they look in his car?
No. They said it was property. That's why they didn't. Because at that point on me, I did not have the receipts.
I have to make a judgment as to whether or not you're telling me the truth. What do you think I'm going to decide?
You'll probably rule in her favor.
I will. Do you know why?
Why?
Because she's telling me the truth. That's why. Because I've been in this business for 40 years. And that's why I can tell who's telling the truth and I can tell who's lying. And there isn't a question in my mind that this lady would not have come to court today unless she felt as if you did the wrong thing by keeping her grandchildren. It may have been other things, you know. There were other things other than gifts for her grandchildren. Maybe she would have let it slide. But it really irritated her that because you broke up in a way that was unpleasant, you took her property, which I believe. I don't know what you did with it. You sold it. You have grandchildren. Maybe you gave it to your grandchildren. Maybe you gave it to your friend's grandchildren. Maybe someplace. Maybe you donated it to children. Who knows what you did with it? But there is no question in my mind that you had her property. The welder is yours, Mr. Darnell. I honestly believe you when you said to me that she gave you that as a quid pro quo for putting the starter in her car. And it was an early Christmas present, but not the toys. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $479. That's all.
Jeremy Bailing says his neighbor, 16-year-old Joey McQueen, attacked him with a crowbar. Joey is countersuing, claiming that he was assaulted by Jeremy's son.
Mr. McQueen, were you present during any of these incidents involving your son and the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
You may be seated. How old are you?
16.
You have an older brother?
Yes.
How old is he?
18.
Has he ever been in jail?
The
answer would be either yes or no. Has he ever been in jail?
No.
Has he ever been arrested?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Was the arrest involving the plaintiff?
No.
Involving somebody else?
No.
Involving what?
He got pulled over with drugs in the car.
Was he alone or with other people?
With other people.
Mr. Bailing, the McQueens are neighbors of yours? Not next-door neighbors, but they live in the same
They live
neighborhood.
about 4 blocks away, yeah.
And it is your claim that this young man assaulted you?
Yes, he did.
Assaulted you and injured you?
Yes, he did.
This young man says, through his father, that it was self-defense, but his father doesn't know that because his father wasn't there.
Self-defense?
That's what he says. And it's for us to find out. So tell me when this incident occurred.
Happened December 22nd on a Saturday evening. We were having a birthday party for my stepdaughter.
Who was how old?
She would be 14 that day. And she had 5 friends staying the night, having a slumber party.
5 girls?
5 other girls. And there was a couple boys there. They went down to her best friend's Chelsea's house, which is catty corner, half a block away, to get her birthday present. Well, when they come back, him and his buddy tried to run him over in his buddy's car.
Did you see that?
No, my witness seen that.
Step up. Who were you?
I'm Serena's mother. I didn't actually see it. They came running in the house and said...
Don't tell me what they said.
Okay.
Sit down.
Okay.
I'm disregarding that, sir.
Okay.
Nobody saw it.
Okay.
All right. About 9 o'clock, I come out of the house. All the kids are yelling, screaming. Him and his buddies at the end of my driveway with their car, screaming and cussing and yelling at her and all the kids out there.
Go ahead.
When I walked out, there was profanity, especially from him. I walked straight out.
What was he saying?
Calling her a B word, swearing, cussing. I'll beat your butt and...
Step up, please.
And all this.
Just a second. You are the mother of one of the girls.
Yes, ma'am.
And what's her name?
Serena Walker.
And I would assume that Serena came inside and told you something.
It was her boyfriend. Yeah.
Somebody, the Serena, somebody
Yes,
came and
ma'am.
told you something. You came outside.
Yes, ma'am.
You found your way to Mr. Bailing's house?
We live in the same house. This is my fiance.
Got it.
Okay.
So you came out of the house. How did he get there?
His friend named AJ drove him down there.
AJ drive you down there?
Oh, ma'am, I walked up there.
That's a lie.
Shh. Who's AJ?
My cousin,
How old is AJ?
18.
What kind of car does he have?
A white Aurora.
Was he with you that evening?
The girls hollered for him when we
Was he with you that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
How did he get to your house?
Came, drove down there.
In his...
White Aurora.
Do you drive a car?
No, ma'am.
What kind of car was in your driveway?
A white Aurora.
White Aurora.
So that you walked there, but your cousin went there by himself in the car? Is that what you're telling me?
No, the girls hollered for him to come over there.
My question is, you walked there and your cousin drove there. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes.
Did you get there before or after your cousin did?
Before.
And what happened when you got there before your cousin?
I was standing there. And
Standing where?
in front of his driveway.
What were you doing in his driveway?
I was not in his driveway, I was in the road.
What were you doing in the road in front of his driveway?
Because his stepdaughter's boyfriend kept running his mouth every time he was out there.
Just a second. His stepdaughter's boyfriend kept running his mouth.
Yes.
At whom?
At me.
Well, that evening, when had he seen you before?
At Chelsea's house.
What were you doing at Chelsea's house? Were you inside of
No,
Chelsea's
I was
house?
walking down the street.
So, stepdaughter's boyfriend had words with you outside of Chelsea's house.
Yes.
Then what?
And he started coming out to the street.
Towards you, away from you, towards their house, away from their house?
He was coming towards me, and his girlfriend was pushing him back.
Okay. Go ahead.
It continued up to their house.
So they left.
No.
They went to their house.
He was.
Just a second. They went to their house.
Went towards their house.
And
he continued running his mouth. And then when we got in front of their house...
Just a second. What do you mean you got in front of their house? What are you following them for?
I don't know.
Somebody's starting up with you by running off with his mouth at you. You're going in the opposite direction. So you turn around and follow him back to the house.
He lives totally the
Just
opposite way. Okay.
Do I look like I'm needing help? So you follow them, his stepdaughter and her boyfriend, back to stepdaughter's house. For what purpose?
Try to get him to stop running his mouth to me, because every time
He wouldn't have even heard you if you just kept walking, right?
All right.
Now, when you follow them back to the house, where was the white Aurora?
Across the street from the window. There's a window company right there. It was right in front of it.
You mean your cousin just happened to be there across the street in his white Aurora?
No, the girls that was with me hollered for him.
Well, where was he that she was able to holler for him and he was able to appear? What is he, Batman? Where do you think he was?
He was over at his grandma's house.
And where is that?
Next street over from Arbor.
Well, that's a long street. He must have a very big car. You get where I'm going?
Yes.
Okay. Now you're in front of this gentleman's house where you had no business being. And you have your cousin there in the white Aurora. And then what happened?
And Mr. Bentley came out there and he struck me in my face.
He just came out and struck you?
Yes.
Show me how he did that.
He put his hand on the ball and hit me in my face.
Punched you in the face?
Yes.
And what happened next?
I acted in self-defense and got my cousin's car and got a crowbar.
No, just a second. He punched you in the face.
Yes.
Then you walked across the street, opened the car, got a crowbar.
Yes.
Where was Mr. Bailing when you were getting this crowbar?
In the middle of the street.
He was in the middle of the street.
Yes.
So then you walked back to where he was.
Yes.
And what did you do?
That's when I hit him with it.
Hit him with what?
The crowbar.
Now, if you went over to the car, sir, to the white Aurora, I assume you're going to tell me that your cousin was in the car.
No, he was outside the car.
He was?
Yes.
When did he get outside the car?
After he struck me in the face.
And what did he do when he got outside the car?
He acted like he was going to hit him.
Who acted like he was going to hit whom?
AJ acted like he was going to hit Mr. Bailing.
Tell me what he did to show that he was going to hit him.
Like, jumped at him.
Jumped at him?
Yeah.
Did he jump at him before or after you got the crowbar?
After.
When you went over to the car, you could have gotten in the car, right?
Yes.
And left. You chose not to do that. If I believe that he punched you in the face. You have a... Do you?
Yes.
I'd like to see the police
We also
report,
have
please.
pictures of his head.
I'll get you
What's
that.
your first name?
Joseph.
Joseph. You were arrested for assault.
Yes.
You had a lawyer?
Yes.
Who hired the lawyer for you?
It's my uncle.
Your Honor.
I'm speaking. Your uncle represented you in the case involving the assault. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you went to court and you pled guilty.
Yes.
And when you pled guilty before the judge asked you what happened.
Yes.
And you told the judge what happened.
Yes.
And you were given community service as a punishment, right?
Yes.
Now you can stand up. Now, Mr. McQueen, I'm going to give you an elementary lesson in the law. Your son pled guilty. He pled guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That is tantamount to a conviction. This is a civil court. The quantum of proof, the necessary proof required in this court is much less than that is required in the criminal court. And in the criminal court, it doesn't make any difference whether you went to trial or whether you pled guilty. It's the same, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty. So you are responsible for assaulting Mr. Bailing. If you legitimately felt that your defense of self-defense was a good one, and I'm sure that your uncle, the lawyer, knew that it was not, then you would have gone to trial and maybe been acquitted. You chose not to do that. You chose to plead guilty to the charges, or some of the charges emanating from this incident. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
And if you think that I believe half of what you just told me, I'm 5'7" and 42 years old. Thank you for not laughing. Police officer responded to the location on the 22nd, spoke to me. You are Jeremy Bailing?
Yes.
You are bleeding from the head.
Yep.
Baling stated that two subjects known to him as Jay and Joey had followed his daughter to the front of his driveway. You asked him to leave your property?
Yes, I did.
Baling stated that he pushed Joey to get him to leave his property. You would be Joey?
Yes.
At which point Joey hit him in the head several times with a crowbar.
6.
Mm-hmm.
He was defending himself, hitting me 6 times.
Can I ask a question, Your Honor?
Mm-hmm.
If it was such a problem, why wasn't the law called in the first place?
Mr. McQueen.
Be adult about it.
Mr. McQueen, you have 2 sons.
2 other sons.
Well, you have one son who was arrested for drugs. You have one son who pled guilty to assault. And the other one?
He's doing good.
He's doing good. These 2 aren't. How many times has AJ been arrested?
I don't know.
How many times has your cousin been arrested?
I don't know.
Any?
Yes.
Sure. So if you wallow around with pigs, you're going to get dirty. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because this report says that this AJ threatened to return with a gun and kill everybody. You're not doing your job, sir. If you have 3 sons and 2 of them have been arrested, and I don't know about the 3rd, but let's just say 2, that means something's not right with your parenting. Now, your son said that this guy made rude comments to him, so he went to Division Street to confront him. Which time Baling came out to the end of the driveway, hit him, and he said he hit him back 1 time. He didn't say he hit him with a crowbar. What kind of community service did you have to perform?
I had to go to a church and help homeless people.
For how long?
I had to do 10 hours.
And then what happens to your conviction?
He stays on it. And then he's got to do teen rap. He's on probation. He took the plea instead of fighting the courts and stuff.
Well, I assume that that was on the advice of his uncle.
You know, it's better than fighting the courts and stuff and going
You fight
through
the
it.
courts if you're innocent.
Right. But
Right.
go ahead and let him take the plea and go ahead and face the charges.
Good. Fine. You go to school?
Yes.
What do you do after school?
Work out for football.
Are you on the football team?
Yes.
You work out every day for football?
Every day but one.
On Sunday?
No, I don't.
Get a job.
I do.
You have?
Yes.
Fabulous. So you can pay your father back. I'd like to see the photographs, please. Has Mr. McQueen seen the photographs?
I gave them to the prosecuting attorney, so I'm sure they seen it in the other court matter.
I
Did
have
you?
it, Your Honor.
You have not?
No.
Well, I'm just going to show you the one in his head. Would you give this to Mr. McQueen, please?
Yeah, I still have a scar for that one in the head right here.
Got to watch him. On the complaint, the court is awarding the plaintiff $2,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. The counterclaim is dismissed without prejudice because there are no witnesses here. That's all. Thank you.
Bail bondsman Aaron McAllister says former client Elena Zadavich owes for unpaid bail money.
What were you arrested for, Miss Zadavich?
I was arrested on false charges of domestic violence that my ex filed against me.
I didn't ask you whether they were true or not true. I asked, what were you arrested for?
I was arrested on allegations of domestic violence.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
Yes.
Look at me. Was
Yes.
it the first time you were arrested? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Better. When was the first time you were arrested?
Several years ago.
Having nothing to do with domestic violence.
Has something to do with domestic violence.
So you have 2 arrests for domestic violence?
That's correct.
Was it the same complainant in each case?
Different.
Different. Okay. You are a bail bondsman?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that you received a call from the defendant in jail. You responded. You bailed her out of jail. At her request, she promised to pay for the bond. She did not. You want your money.
Yes.
Defendant says you're a sleazy bail bondsman and she's not paying you.
Correct.
When did you receive the call?
Sometime in the middle of the night from the county jail.
What night? I'm not Karnak. What night would
I'm
you
sorry.
like to tell me it is?
July the 15th.
In the middle of the night. You were home?
Correct. In bed.
How did you get his number?
It was posted on the wall in the county jail.
Do you have your home number posted in the wall in county jail?
No, ma'am. It's an office number that forwards to my cell phone in the evening and weekends.
I see. I wouldn't think that you'd want your house phone
No.
to have a number. Okay. What did the defendant say to you when she called?
That she was in jail and she had to get out. She had to get to work the next morning. If she didn't get out, she would lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm an executive assistant.
For whom?
For a small media startup.
How long have you had that job?
Close to a year.
10 months?
Something like that.
Where did you work before?
I was managing a medical spa.
Where?
Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Have any family here?
Just my 2 children.
How old are they?
6 and 2.
They live with you?
Part-time.
Who do they live with the other part of the time?
Well, my son lives with my daughter. Part-time lives with her paternal family.
Maternal or paternal?
Paternal.
Paternal. So the father's family, father's parents with her grandparents?
No, his brother and his family, they live very close by, about 10-minute drive from where I live, and she's there a lot because I work full-time.
Okay, so you had to get to work at the media startup company when you called him?
Correct.
Did you tell him that you were going to take care of paying his bail?
What happened was I told him that I didn't have any money.
No. When you called him on the phone from jail, you told him I don't have any money?
Correct.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not.
Right. I wouldn't.
Of course not, because if you tell you, please bail me out of jail, but I don't have any money, and he doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, he's not getting out of his warm bed in the middle of the night. Madam.
Well, he did.
No. He did. The question was, did you tell him that you didn't have any money?
Yes, I did.
He says you didn't, and I'm saying I believe him that at that time you didn't tell him I have no money. Because if he's in business and he gets a call from a stranger, you are a stranger, right?
Correct.
That I want you to get up out of bed, drive over to the jail and bail me out. But by the way, I have no money. He'd say, call somebody else.
That's exactly what I said.
All right. I don't believe you. Go ahead.
We discussed that she had a CD, and the CD was maturing within the next 30 days, and that there would be ample
That you would have money.
Correct. In the CD to pay me out of the proceeds of the CD. And she didn't want to cash it in early because she didn't want to pay the penalty. I agreed to those terms within 30 days that she would use the CD.
Was this on the telephone?
That was on the telephone.
Okay. Because you did ask her the question about money.
Correct.
And when you said, do you have money, what did she say?
I have a CD.
Okay. So, did you tell her how much the bail would be?
Correct. 10%, $5,000.
Because she had $50,000 bail?
Correct.
That's a high bail for domestic violence.
It is.
Do you know why it was so high?
That's per the schedule in that county. That's always $50,000 for a felony charge.
It was a felony.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we get her out. We memorialize our agreement in writing. She
Can I
signs
see it,
a
please?
bail contract and the agreement to pay.
Can I see it, please? Okay, so you signed an agreement to pay him the $5,000.
I had no choice. He made me sign it.
But
Madam,
listen to me very carefully, madam. You have a choice. Your choice is to stay in jail until the matter on which you were arrested for is tried. That's your choice. You chose.
We had a different agreement.
No. This is your agreement. This in here is your agreement, in the four corners of this agreement. And what I asked you was, did you sign this agreement? And the answer is either yes or no. Not
yes,
I was forced to sign
I did sign that agreement, but aside from that, there was an oral agreement that took place between me and Mr. McAllister.
I'll get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the agreement's signed, I get her out of jail. She says, now what do? I live 30 minutes from here. I agreed to give her a ride. She's worried about getting to work, so I give her a ride. And it's about 30 minutes away. So during that time, she tells me the entire story about the arrest, and I attempt to be understanding that, you know, she was arrested, and I'm sorry, and that's a bad thing, and you're dealing with a breakup, and, you know, how she caught her boyfriend with his new girlfriend laying on the couch that she paid for or she picked out. And the entire time in the car,
Would you look at me when you're telling me this story, Mr. McAllister? Look at me. Don't look down there.
Sorry. The entire time in the car, she says, I'm not a stalker, I'm not a stalker. I go, okay, sorry, you're not a stalker. No problem. Okay, I'll get you to your vehicle. Well, the vehicle's parked 3 blocks away from the house where she was living or where she was arrested. So there's obviously something going on there. Anyway, I get her out, she signs the agreement, and she refuses to pay me.
No, just a second. When did she sign the agreement?
Immediately upon release from the county jail.
Okay. And then you drove her to her car.
Correct.
And you dropped her, and she never paid you.
Right. I made
When,
repeated
for the first time, did you contact her with regard to payment?
Well, within 10 days, we sent her an invoice, just a reminder of the payment terms, and sent her 4 or 5 subsequent invoices that went answered with these rambling letters talking about...
Do you have a copy of the letters?
I do.
Can I see them, please?
Those are her letters to me and then my responses.
Based upon our discussion, these are your words, when he initially asked you for your money. Based upon our discussion, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you and your business in lieu of paying you $5,000 for a relatively risk-free, as you put it, bond. I am still awaiting the opportunity to make good on my offer to work for your company. As you were advised at the time the bond was posted, I have not, or do not have now, $5,000 fee that you are demanding. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time of the unsecured bond was posted, I now consider your correspondence demanding $5,000 to be intimidating and threatening. What are you, crazy? Please do not send me any more threatening letters. You knew my financial predicament at the time bail was posted. I still intend to honor my promise to perform professional services for you. You never promised to perform professional services for him. Your own letter says, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you or your business in lieu of paying for the bond. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time, I now consider your... Discussions aren't a contract, madam.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
Because he's not telling you the whole truth.
Go
what
ahead.
happened, he bails me out.
Are
he
you,
knows
just a second, are you telling me the whole truth? Listen, are you telling me the whole truth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
About your children's living arrangements, you're telling me the whole truth?
We're not talking about my children right now. I want to tell you.
You mean you're telling the truth?
About what
Listen to
happened.
me. You're telling the truth sometimes, and sometimes you can lie. And when am I supposed to tell the difference? You see, I knew that you were lying to me about your children's living situation. That you're not willing to discuss.
What do you lie about?
Listen to me. My question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're lying, and how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth?
I do tell the truth.
But you just lied to me today.
About what?
You lied about your children's living situation.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How did I?
Oh, yes, you did. And you know you did. You know that they live with me part-time, they live with some part-time, they live here because I work. That's not the story. But that's a story you chose to tell me. Now, you told me that with the same veracity as you told me that you had another contract with him. And my question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth and when you're lying?
What I'm saying is the truth.
Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, and then I'll tell you what the law is.
Okay. Well, he bails me out. He drives me to my vehicle. On the way to my vehicle, he makes comments about, and he says, well, it would be nice if a pretty woman like you worked for my company doing some sort of marketing and promoting my company, and maybe we can work something out in terms of paying for the bail bond that he posted on my behalf. So when he dropped me off by my vehicle, and before he left, he made me sign the agreement that you saw after we had the conversation of me potentially working for his company.
Did you get what you said to me, madam? You just said to me, maybe you could work for my company. Maybe you could work for my company.
And
that's not an agreement.
No,
that's not. No. After that, nothing. You took that, and I believe that you said that to her. Well, maybe you could work for my company and do something. Maybe you said it to her. Who cares? It's not relevant. There was no contract.
I said I couldn't work for him full time as he proposed.
So
he
no, madam.
We can work something out, and you can work for me on weekends.
Your Honor.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
Yes.
No, I have
you are,
a
because
letter.
according to what you said to me, after you had that discussion, after, not before. You see, he said you signed this at the jail.
No.
You say I signed it after I had the discussion with him about working with him part-time, weekends, etc. If that was true, that's not contained in this agreement.
No.
And I believe, madam, that you are one smart cookie. And if he had this conversation with you where you made a contract with him, a contract that's enforceable, to work off the bail bond by working for him part-time, you would have put it in this agreement because you're already out of jail. You see, you're already out. Because you're already bailed out. So then you could either say to him, I'm not signing this. Or you say, it's not the entire agreement that we have. But you didn't. You signed it and said, I promise to pay you $5,000.
Well, he told me right there that if you don't sign it, I'm just going to put you right back to jail. That's what he told me.
I don't believe you. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
You're making it up as you're going along because if he said to you, you signed this or I'm going to take you back to jail.
That's what he said?
Your response would have been, well, then put in our agreement that I could work it off, right? Right?
I was very stressed.
Oh, listen, it's not the first time you were arrested. That's why I asked you the question before. It's not the first time. It's probably not the second time that you were arrested. So pay him his money. You owe him his money. Don't be a con artist. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Rhonda Vito is suing the mother of her son's friend, Anna Betancourt, for the cost to fix a dirt bike. Rhonda claims Anna's son, 17-year-old Sean, rode her son's bike without permission and wrecked it.
Ms. Vito, which of these two young men is your son?
Anthony, the first one.
How old are you, Anthony?
16.
How tall are you?
6'1".
What do you feed him?
Pasta.
Pasta? Which one of these two young men is am I going to grill today?
Sean.
Ms. Betancourt, and this is your son, whose name is Sean?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Vito, it is your complaint that Ms. Betancourt's son drove your son's dirt bike without permission, got into an accident, and damaged the bike. You believe Mrs. Betancourt should be responsible for fixing the bike. Ms. Betancourt said that her son did have permission to ride the bike, that he was injured, that you're just lucky she's not suing you for the injuries because he broke an ankle. Is that right?
Yeah.
And your son gave her son permission to ride the bike, so that's it. Shouldn't be here. Anthony.
Yes.
Anthony, when were you riding the bike when it was running? What date was the last date before this incident? You have to look down at a piece of paper?
No.
What date?
May 8th.
And where were you on May 8th?
We were at a track in Brockton, riding.
And is it a track where they just have dirt bikes?
Yes.
Who was there?
Myself, Nick.
You have to speak up. You hear I'm speaking? I'm projecting. You can hear me, right?
Myself, Nick, and Dennis.
Dennis, that would be you.
Yes, Your Honor.
But Sean wasn't there.
No.
This was after school, or there was no school on that day?
It was after school.
What time?
About like 3:30 to 5:30.
Okay. Now, you're going to tell me what happened.
Myself, Nick, and Dennis were riding. My bike wasn't working right, so we drove it to my other friend's house. I tried fixing it, but it didn't work, and Sean asked to ride it.
Okay, now Sean was at your other friend's house?
Yes.
They were just hanging out?
Yes.
So far, are we correct, Sean?
Yes.
So up to this point, our stories are in sync, right? Sean asked if he could ride the bike.
Yes, and me and Nick said no, and I was putting the tools away, and he got on the bike and with no helmet and just left.
Why did you say no?
Because the bike wasn't working properly.
Is that the reason you left the track?
Yes.
Did you have a bike with you that day?
No, Your Honor.
Did you have a bike with you that day?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you had your own bike?
Yes.
He's petrified. All right, so he got on the bike without a helmet and took off. Go ahead.
About 5 minutes after I saw him, I tried waving him over, and he kept going.
Well, what was he going around in a circle?
Yeah, like he went around the block. I saw him, I waved him over. He didn't come over. And about 10 minutes later, he came back with a broken ankle.
By the way, state of Massachusetts, are you required to ride with a helmet?
Yes.
You're also 16, Sean?
17.
17? So you're older than he is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I start eating more pasta.
I don't like pasta.
Okay, let me hear your version. You're at your friend's house. He comes by with his bike.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
He came by with his bike. They were fixing it. Dennis rode the bike.
Talk back. Came by, and they were fixing it.
Yes.
Were you outside when they were fixing it?
No, I shut up there. I got out after they were done fixing it, and I came out and...
Well, how did you know they were fixing it?
Because they told me that after.
After what?
I crashed.
After the crash?
Yeah.
Not before?
No.
So you showed up after they had been fooling around with the bike?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then Dennis was riding it, and then when he stopped riding it, I asked if I could ride it. He said no. I asked him again. He said no, and then I just hopped on the bike and rode it. Because I rode it again, so I didn't really think it was a big deal.
Did you tell that to your mother?
No.
No, ma'am.
He didn't tell that to you?
No, ma'am.
He had an epiphany here. Right?
Yeah.
Sean, you had an epiphany here, right? You know what that word means? Change of heart. You had an enlightenment. So this is the first time your mother's hearing that he said, no, you can't ride the bike. Now, do you think that if your mother knew that you didn't have permission to ride this bike, that we would be here today? You stole the bike, right? If you ask the owner of a bike, a car, something, can I use your vehicle? And they say, no, you can't use it. Oh, I'm going to use it anyway. Go get rid of your tools. While you're getting rid of your tools, I'll get on the bike and ride it. Sean, what do you have to say for yourself?
I don't know.
Miss Betancourt, you changed your mind? Your son rode the bike without permission. He actually stole it. He was told he couldn't drive it. You think he's responsible for the damage he caused?
But, Your Honor, I also have medical bills that my insurance is not covering.
Well, let me ask you this question, Miss Betancourt. Let's say your son was walking down the street on his way home, and he saw a red Corvette convertible. And he got into the car, because the keys were there, got into the car, and he took off with the car. And he crashed it. And he got hurt. You think that the owner of that car would be responsible for your medical bills?
No, but also what I didn't finish is that what they're charging me, they're also charging me for part that was fixed that had nothing to do with the accident. And Dennis is the one who took the bike to the shop. And some of the chains and the stuff was worn out during all the periods that they were riding the bikes. So it had nothing to do with the accident.
Well, how much do you believe you are responsible for of the bills that they had?
If we take that out, it would be $355.78.
How much did it cost you to fix the bike?
$631.10.
But the bike wasn't working before he got on the bike properly.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So it was going to have to go in to be fixed, because the reason you didn't want him to ride the bike is because it wasn't working properly.
Yes.
So at least part of that $631 that it cost you to fix the bike was as a result of wear and tear on the bike, or something that had absolutely no relation to the accident. So what has to do with the accident, Anthony?
I don't know.
Well, if you don't know, she knows. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $355.78. Good. Truth will out. Aren't you glad I didn't have to call on you?
No.
That's all. Thank you.
Diane Dennis is suing her daughter, Christy Dennis, for fraudulently using her home as collateral on a bail bond. Christy claims she paid her back.
Mr. Dennis, this is your daughter.
Yes.
According to your complaint, your daughter has had a difficult adulthood. She has some children that you are caring for because she had a drug problem for a while and was unable to care for the children. And I assume that you're doing okay now.
Yes.
You look fine.
Thank you.
Sometime during that period of time, she gave you the home that she had, and you and the children live in that home.
Yes.
You subsequently found out that she had used that home while it was still in her name as collateral for bail for her boyfriend.
Right.
The boyfriend skipped out. The bail was up to several $1,000s. There was a lien on the house for that amount of money, and you want her to pay you back for that.
That's correct.
Is there a mortgage on the house?
Yeah.
How much did you pay for it?
$115,000.
When did you buy it?
It would be like 96 or 97?
99.
Oh, 99.
What's the house now worth?
$150,000.
So it is appreciated in value.
Yes.
And when did she give it to you?
In September of '03.
And are you paying the mortgage on the house now?
Yes, I am.
Did you put any money down on the house?
No, I didn't.
So the house is now worth approximately $35,000 more than when you purchased it. And you put in zero money.
Well, I put some upgrades in the home, but I didn't.
That has
put any.
nothing to do with, you put in zero money.
That's right.
To purchase it.
Right.
And between 1999 and 2003, you paid the mortgage?
Yeah.
You did not pay the mortgage.
Well, I did. It went into foreclosure 3 times during that time. It was because of non-payment. So the first time was $1,800. That was in '01. She came to me and said, I'm in big trouble.
Okay, that was $1,800. And
okay,
then?
a year later in $1,200, and I paid that. And then I moved in with her. She was having trouble paying her bills and everything. And in 2003, it went into foreclosure for the 3rd time for non-payment.
But you were living with her at the time?
Yes, and I was giving her my half of the house payment to pay, but she was not paying the house payment. So then we owed $2,425. And I said, well, if you want me to pay it this time, it's no longer your house.
And that was in September of 2003?
Yes.
And when did you actually turn the house over to your mother?
September of 2003.
And when did you use the house as collateral for bail for your boyfriend?
In June of 2004.
Well, how could you use the house as collateral?
Well, it was still in my name.
Well, how could it be in your name if you turned it over to your mother? When did
she
you
kept
actually...
it in my name.
Oh, she can't do that.
No,
Why did
what
you
we
keep it
did
in your
is
name?
we did a quit claim deed and we notarized it and everything, but I did not record it at the county recorder's office.
Why not?
Because I was not anxious to take her house, and she said that she was going to pay me back. And so I put on the letter of explanation on the quit claim deed, I gave her a little bit of time to do that and said if she did it by a certain date.
Miss Dennis.
She never did it.
Diane Dennis says her daughter, Christy Dennis, owes for a bail lien on her home.
Ms. Dennis, if you had recorded the deed, which you, I assume, ultimately did,
Yes, I did.
then she couldn't have used the house as collateral.
That's right. That was my mistake, definitely.
It was your mistake.
Right.
But you're really not out any money because you have a home in which you put in no money and you have equity in the house of over $35,000.
Yes, and I've helped her a lot. The only thing
I'm not talking about you helping her. And I assume that when she gave you this house, and if there was an increased equity of $35,000, nobody paid any federal gift tax on the house.
Well, it hasn't been sold.
Doesn't have to be sold. She gave you a gift. And if the gift is in excess of $10,000, you have to pay a gift tax on that, Ms.
Well,
Dennis.
she was going into foreclosure. It was either going to go to the bank or to me.
You're making excuses. You know exactly what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is you now have a home in which at most you put in $4,000 if you paid the back mortgage payment.
No, that was over $6,000. Three times.
I have 18 and 22.
And then 24, 25 the last time. That was the
well,
foreclosure.
You were living, just a second, you were living there.
And giving her the payment.
You were living there. I don't believe that you were giving her the payment, Miss Dennis.
Was I giving? Okay.
Miss Dennis, I don't believe you were giving her the payment. With her history of not paying the mortgage, it doesn't sound right to me that if you're living there because your daughter's on drugs, that you would turn over your half of the mortgage payment to her so that she would pay the mortgage. Miss Dennis, it doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's not true.
Okay.
So,
well, I thought she wasn't paying the payment because she didn't have the money. She went through a hard time. She lost her partner.
Miss Dennis, I don't
working.
believe you that you were giving her the money. I don't believe that you were living in the house with her to take care of your grandchildren because she was going through a difficult time, according to you, on drugs, and you were handing her over money. I don't believe it.
Yeah,
well, I don't believe it.
I
don't believe it.
Okay, after she signed the quitclaim deed, the only thing that changed is that I was now making the payment.
Miss Dennis, you have a house in which you have now $35,000 in equity for which you paid nothing.
Your Honor, I upgraded the downstairs.
Good for you. Now you own the house.
At the time I took the quitclaim deed, she had about $10,000 worth of equity. This has been since 2003 that she signed it over to me. In 2004, she used it as collateral to get her boyfriend out of jail.
Couldn't
now
have
that's
done
the
that.
only.
Couldn't have done that, my dear, if you had taken
but
the deed.
It still changes hands. The only thing is, it doesn't give notice. As far as I gave constructive notice because I'm living in the house.
Don't tell me about constructive notice. You did not give constructive notice to the bail bondsman. Because if you did, then the bail bondsman would not have been.
Yeah, I found out that about
you think if you talk more than me, you're wrong on the law, Miss Dennis.
Of course, but
of course.
A year
so
later,
if you're wrong on the law, and if you come to a court, somebody's going to say to you, you're wrong on the law. A certain amount of sympathy, because if you were out money, I would say,
I
have sympathy. Well, that's not what this is about. We're here on one particular issue, and the one issue that we're here to address is whether or not you are entitled to the money that you had to repay to take a lien off your house.
Right.
And I'm saying to you that it wasn't your house.
Okay.
Unless you record it, because that's what the law requires, that you record a deed so that the rest of the world knows that this is your property. The law does not require that with regard to personal property, the locket around your neck, the shirt that you're wearing, but the law requires that with regard to land.
Right.
You chose, for whatever reason, not to do that. She was absolutely entitled, therefore, during that period of time to use her house as collateral. Now, if you're looking for a sympathy factor, there is none, because according to you, the equity that she had built up until 2003 was $10,000. Now the equity is $35,000. So sympathetically, it's here. Morally, it's here.
Okay, I paid over $6,000 just to get it out of foreclosure when she was non-paying. Okay, I put in improvements that was way over the
Goodbye, Miss Dennis. You're not getting anywhere. The case is dismissed.
Okay.
Ralph Teeter says the mother of his children, April Pyatt, owes for bail money after she was arrested for passing bad checks.
Mr. Teeters, how many children do you and the defendant have together?
3.
3. How old are they?
8, 5, 2.5.
You've never married?
No.
For my own information, any particular reason why?
I've tried. Her rings keep getting pawned.
Did she pawn one after your 8-year-old was born?
Yeah.
And after your 5-year-old was born?
Yeah.
You don't learn.
No. I was trying for a family.
She wasn't interested.
You can't make something stay together.
Well, you got a family, 8, 5, and 2. The children live with you?
Yeah, but we don't have 3 children together. We have 2. And I have one from a different relationship.
How old is that child?
2.
The last one is not yours, is that right?
No, I raised her for a year and a half before I found out. So in my eyes, she's mine.
Okay. Your complaint is that you bailed Miss Pyatt out of jail, $1,000. You want your bail money back.
Correct.
Miss Pyatt has a defense. I don't understand it, but I'm sure she'll explain it to me. When did you bail her out of jail?
I bailed her out on Valentine's Day.
What was she in jail for?
Bad checks. She had a heyday, just writing checks.
On whose account?
Hers.
So she wrote checks on an account where there was no funds, according to you. There were no funds to cover the checks.
Yes, ma'am.
When did she write those checks?
the late end of 2004 to beginning of 2005.
Did you know about the bad checks?
I didn't know about them at the moment, but after I found out, I took out a set of loans, paid off the first set.
He was
didn't
with
stop
me on
her.
some-
Just a second.
It didn't stop her. She kept going. So, I mean, I
You
can't
were
keep
living
paying.
together at the time.
Yes.
How much of a loan did you take out to pay out the first set of checks?
I believe it was $1,100.
Tell me about her arrest on the bad checks.
On the 12th or 13th, she got up in a bad mood, decided to stomp through my coffee table. So I told her she needed to go or I was calling the cops. Called the cops, they picked her up. My daughter found out about it. She didn't want her mommy in jail, so I went to her mother, and her mom offered $500, and I put up the other $1,000. I bailed her.
You went to her mother and got $500.
Right,
And then you put up the other $1,000
right,
because your daughter didn't want her mommy in jail.
right.
Go ahead.
I shouldn't have to pay for her getting in trouble. I helped her out because my daughter wanted her out. You know, I shouldn't be stabbed in the back for being nice.
So, what is the theory of your court case?
I want my money back. I mean,
Well, I know, but what's the theory of your case?
I'm tired of paying for a relationship that ain't there.
Mr. Teeters, is that matter still pending? The
What
bad
matter?
checks, has that matter been
No, I
resolved?
paid it in full, and not with the money, the bond money.
Just a second. Are you on probation?
No.
What happened?
I paid a fine of $25 apiece, and I paid the amount of the checks that I wrote. And they were wrote in a 3-day period. They weren't wrote.
They were, first of all, written.
Yes, they were written.
Did you plead guilty and accept a fine and restitution, or was the matter still pending? Do you have to go to court? Do you have a lawyer? I want to know what...
No, I pled guilty, and...
So you pled guilty?
Yes.
And you were given a fine?
Yes.
And restitution?
Yes.
Who are you living with now?
My husband.
When did you get married?
April 18th.
Is he the father of any of your children?
No, he's not.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Do you see your children?
Only at her convenience. See, the guy that she's married to is the one she come to me for help from. She come to me saying she'd been beaten, she needed help, wanted away. I tried to help her out.
You mean when she was...
Right
At the
before
time
she
you
was-
called the police,
Yeah.
she had come back to your house?
Yeah, and the only reason she was even there in the first place is because she'd been beaten by this guy.
Is that true?
I think if you were beaten, you'd have bruises and marks.
I don't ask... Don't...
No, it was not true.
Why did you go back to Mr. Teeter's house?
Because I was angry with Ed, and I needed...
What were you angry with Ed about?
He was keeping track of my income tax money and being controlling.
How long had you and Mr. Teeters been separated when you went back?
For 10 months.
So is what you're telling me, Miss Pyatt, that you went back to him and said, Ed is being controlling and I don't want to live with him anymore? Can you help me? Or did you say that he was being abusive?
I said I was mad at him and angry with him, and that I wanted to rent my own home for my children and me, and if he could help me out.
A church rented her an apartment or a motel room for a battered woman's thing, and that's where they only did it for 1 day, and I took over. And as far as her renting a place, I've got receipts here from where I pawned all
Mr.
of my
Teeters,
rifles.
listen to me very carefully, sir. I'm going to give you some advice. I understand that you're tired of paying for her, but she did not borrow this money from you, and you did not loan her this bail money. According to you, you called the police because she was acting out in your home. The only reason you went to bail her out of jail, according to you, is because your daughter was crying and said, I don't want my mommy in jail.
And she had agreed that me and her mother both get the money back.
No, well, I didn't hear that, sir.
I could have sworn I told you earlier that on the phone, whenever I talked to her, she had agreed that her mother get back the $5 and I get back the $1,000.
When did she tell you that?
That was the night before I bailed her out.
She called you, I assume.
Called her mother's.
And you were at her mother's?
Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was asking for help for her. Where April called, they'd been contacting me, trying to get up on money.
And what did you say?
I said I'd do what I could.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
He was at my brother's house when I contacted him, and I called and asked him that I had some money in my purse, which was $820, and that the rest of the money I needed help to come up with if he could contact one of my aunts or someone to help me come up with the rest of the money. But he ended up that night in the same jail I was in for possession of felony drug charges. So we were in jail together.
Not my drugs.
And I have
Well,
proof
just
of
a
that.
second. Were you in jail that evening?
Yes.
For what?
I got picked up for wearing the jacket she was wearing whenever she got arrested.
Go ahead.
He was in the same jail until the next day when he was released. He came and brought my money that was in my purse, the money of my mom had gave him.
Well, how much was your bail?
$1,500.
And your mother gave him $500?
Yeah.
Leaving $1,000 left?
Yeah, 180, I don't know where it came from. He put that up somehow, and then 820 was in my purse when I went to jail.
Where did you get $820?
I worked, and My income tax check had just came in.
Where were you working?
A grocery store.
And you kept your money? You didn't put your money in a bank? You kept it all in your
I wrote bad
purse?
checks.
She'd have to be saving for months at $5.15 an hour.
No, I had income tax returns of $1,700.
Show me.
Okay. And I also have where he went to jail and an ex parte order and a copy of what I spent my income tax on that he was keeping, my witness. That's part of the reason why I left.
You have the stub from this check that you got?
No, I don't believe so.
How much did you receive?
$1,700 and something.
What'd you do with it?
I cashed it.
Where?
At my husband's bank, U.S. Bank. At the time, he was just my boyfriend.
So your husband had a bank, and you cashed this.
Mm-hmm.
When did you cash it?
It was at the beginning of February, I do believe.
So you still had this money 2.5?
A month and a little over a month. When I went to jail.
2.5 months later.
Yeah, I had part of it. I didn't have all of it. I only had about
I don't believe you.
I was saving it so I didn't go to jail.
I don't believe you. I don't believe that you had $820 in cash in your pocketbook. Don't buy it.
Yeah, I had it.
I don't believe you. I also don't believe that there was a loan.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
You got to prove that to me, sir. Now, I believe that you called the police on her, and they came, they arrested her. Your daughter said to you, I don't want mommy in jail. You felt badly according to you, so you went to her mother to see how you could both put together enough money to get her out of jail. That's what you told me.
Okay, now I work hard for my money. I've got custody of my 8-year-old daughter.
No, we don't. We don't either one have custody. We haven't gone to court.
I've got where DFS gave me primary custody over her until it goes through a judge.
That's not a legal document, is what they told me, and they told me that
If it wasn't a legal document,
that's just
you'd
so
be
she
allowed
don't
to-
have to change schools. It's so close to the end of school year.
Okay.
I have papers from my lawyer stating.
Why do you have to agree to withdraw from any and all drug activity?
Oh, that's the allegations by her. I've taken multiple UAs from
I have
DFS.
proof of that where he's been arrested.
I've taken multiple UAs from DFS that they drop on me on a random. To where if I would have failed one of those, my daughter would be in her custody and would
He could
not
take
be in
stuff
mine
to
now.
make sure the test passed.
Along with, I went ahead and I agreed to her restraining order, even though on here it's got the dates and everything that I pulled these rifles on her. But that's where I also got conned into, please help me get a place, my boyfriend's abusive, and pawned my rifles.
Oh, God, what a dysfunctional group. I feel sorry for all of your children.
Yeah.
Your daughter is living with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's kept her
And
away
you
from me for 2 months. I haven't even got to see her.
Listen to me, madam. You think that I believe that you moved back in with him even for a couple of days because you told him that your boyfriend was being controlling about your income tax return money?
I just asked him
It
to stay
didn't
there.
happen that way, Miss Pyatt. It didn't happen that way. You went back to him and said, he's beating me up, and he's assaultive, I need a place to stay, and he helped you out. I mean, the fact that he's stupid, he doesn't get any rewards from that. He also did not make a loan for this.
I wouldn't say he was beating me up. That's
Miss Pyatt, certain things make sense and certain things don't make sense. It doesn't make sense for somebody to take you back into their house with 3 children, only 2 of whom are his, biologically. If you said to him, I'm not getting along with my boyfriend.
He was stalking me the whole time. He kept begging me to come back.
He was stalking you?
Yeah, he hid out in the bushes.
He was stalking you the whole time, so you went back to him? Is that what you're telling
Yeah,
me, Miss Pyatt?
it's stupid, my own
You're an
part,
idiot.
yeah.
Anyway, you're an idiot, but you're an idiot who doesn't owe him any money. Mr. Teeters, I suggest that you put it down. I suggest, Mr. Teeters, that if you believe that you are a more appropriate caretaker of your children than the defendant, that you follow through with any custody proceedings that are currently pending. I think that both of you, I don't know how old you are, sir, but certainly she has to grow up. You work?
Yes, I do.
What do you do?
Roofing.
Good. You keep your hands to yourself. That's all.
19-year-old Ashley Miller is suing her aunt, Shauna Miller, for repossessing her car. Shauna claims Ashley didn't abide by the terms of their agreement.
Okay. Very complicated story. Let me see if I can simplify it because it's getting late in the afternoon and I'm getting a little tired. This is your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
Who did a very nice thing for you several months ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And agreed to purchase a car. She was primarily responsible on the loan. You were a co-signer on the loan because you didn't have good credit.
Yes, ma'am.
You went shopping. You put $1,000 of your hard-earned money down on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And you gave your aunt $1,000 towards insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of car did you buy?
It was a 2007 Hyundai Accent.
And it was brand new?
Yes. Only had 5 miles on it.
And when did you purchase it?
February 8th.
And the understanding was that you were going to make the payments on the car and eventually, hopefully, get the loan out of your aunt's name because she didn't want to be responsible for this thing. And you were going to take care of the car, and there were certain things that you were supposed to be responsible with.
Yes, ma'am, after 6 months.
And your aunt took the car back after 2 months.
Correct.
You want the money that you invested in the car, and you want $600 back for the insurance that wasn't used because she took the car back. So you want back $1,600. Your aunt says that you were irresponsible with the car. In the 2 months that you had the car, you put on how many miles?
3,400.
3,400 miles. Where did you go for 3,400 miles?
Well, I went back and forth to work, and I did go to my friend's house. I went over to their house because they asked me to come visit them every day. So I tried. I went back and forth to school every day after work because I go to school 4 days a week.
Where do you work? In what country? Now, did you loan the car to anyone?
No, ma'am.
Did you make any long trips?
I did one long trip, and that was to West Virginia.
From where?
From my house.
Which is where?
Maryland.
Who did you go with?
I went with my 2 sisters because they were up here visiting from Florida.
Did they ever drive your car?
No, ma'am.
Was there any damage to the car?
No, ma'am, not when I had it.
When did you take the car back, Miss Miller?
May 4th.
So she had the car 3 months?
Close to, yes.
Why did you take the car back?
Well, one of the agreements was that she was to stay in touch with us. She was not to have anybody in the car. She was on our insurance because the insurance was in excess to what she could afford. So we turned around.
Just a minute. Did
Okay.
you have an agreement with her that there wasn't to be anyone else in the car?
Prior to signing of anything, yes. I've had the same agreements. I've got my daughter here, Sherry, who is under the same agreement with a car that we have. And also with my other children. I have a 30-year-old son and a 28-year-old daughter. I've done it with all of them. You know, with the same agreements. I know, good heart, but you know what? It builds character and shows them responsibility. And yeah, I've been batting.
Do you have an agreement with your aunt not to have anyone else in the car?
No, ma'am.
What was the discussion that you had with regard to having other people in the car?
No, ma'am. The only agreement that we had with the car was not to let anybody drive the car and to make sure I make the payments on the car, and that was it.
Not to let anybody else drive it?
Yes, to drive it. That was it.
I believe you.
That was it.
I believe you.
Thank you.
I believe her. Because I think it's ridiculous to have an agreement that nobody else can be in the car.
Well, okay.
I believe that you made an agreement with her that nobody else was to drive the car.
Well, actually, well, okay.
But not be in the car. That sounds unreasonable for somebody who's making payments on the car, who's given you the down payment and paid for the insurance. The insurance may not cover anybody else driving the car,
right,
but certainly being a passenger in the car. Why not? Keep going. So, she didn't keep in touch with you, and?
She didn't keep in touch, and when I tried to call her, she was avoiding the calls. I had to go through my father-in-law to call her to call back. My husband and I went up to her place of employment to where we looked at the car. There was dents, 4 of them, going down this way, not like a car had opened and hit it. The dents were going this way. And
you have pictures of the dents?
Oh, I do, yes.
I'd like to see the dents that you're talking about.
This is the car. Dents. I've got an estimate also.
No, I don't need an estimate.
Okay, that's the dents.
Those are dings. There's a ding. It's a ding. It's nothing. You had no right to take the car back.
Okay.
So your counterclaim's dismissed because you're counterclaiming. You say you're now stuck with a car.
Hold on, Your Honor.
I didn't ask you anything. You're now stuck with a car that has 3,400 miles on it. It's depreciated. Well, you know, as soon as you drive a car out of the lot, it depreciates. But as long as she was making the payments, was she?
Yes, she was.
And she paid for the insurance?
Yes, she did.
The car looks perfectly good shape to me. It may have a couple of dings on it. That's unfortunate. But that doesn't look as if it's been in an accident. You had no mileage requirements. You have no basis to take the car back. Yes?
We did have mileage requirements, and the reason why she wasn't allowed to...
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did. We made an agreement with her.
Show me it written down someplace that you had a mileage agreement with her.
It was to keep the value of the car up.
Show me where you have an agreement with her that you have a mileage agreement.
It was a verbal agreement.
Baloney.
Just like the part with the insurance.
Baloney.
Until she got it in her own name or her own insurance, she
Baloney.
wasn't
You had no
supposed to have
reason to
anybody
take the
in
car.
it.
Don't speak to me anymore. You had no reason to take the car back. Unfortunately, Miss Miller, you did a very nice thing for your niece.
I thought so.
You probably had second thoughts about it, but you didn't have a basis to breach the agreement and take the car back. Her money. Or you give her the car back. What's your pleasure?
Can I say something
Sure.
real quick? She assured me that no drinking, no partying, and everything else, and she was drinking and she was partying, but, you know.
Well, show me proof that she was drinking in the car.
Oh, I can't show you
drinking
proof.
and driving.
No.
So,
Okay.
that's what you need. You need proof. Put your hand down. That's what you need. You need proof.
Okay.
Where's the car now?
In my yard.
You want your car back?
Can I speak?
Yes.
The whole drinking thing has nothing to do with it because I didn't do it when I was driving. And the car they gave to her daughter after they took the car from me. After like a week went by and they called me and told me, asked me if I want the car back. And I said no because they already took the car. And after that, I felt like, you know, since they took it from me once, they would do it again.
Did you get another car?
No.
How many miles are on the car now?
There's quite a bit.
What do you mean quite a bit? There was 3,400 miles when you took it. How many miles are on
Well,
the car
I
now?
drove it back and forth to work myself, and my daughter's driving. Okay.
You owe her $1,600. You had no basis to take the car back.
Can I get her to sign off on this title, or how do
Absolutely.
I have to? Okay.
Absolutely. You can get her to sign off on the title as soon as you get the bank to release her from the loan. Why would I have her sign the title off until you can get her off on the loan?
Okay, I can, yes.
Okay, so we'll cut an order that as soon as you get her off on the loan, she's going to sign off on the title, right?
Yes,
you don't want
ma'am.
the title in your name?
Nope, ma'am.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $1,600.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Marlene Lacey claims fellow motorist Sarah Roshan rammed her car during an incident of road rage. Sarah claims it was Marlene who ran into her. She is countersuing for the resulting damage.
I have a complaint and I have a counterclaim. Each of you claim road rage by the other. And Miss Lacey, you claim that the defendant assaulted you.
Yes.
The defendant denies that. So I'm used to, quite frankly, hearing about these road rage incidents with guys behind the wheel of a car. Very rarely do I see mature women who get involved with that kind of stupidity. It's very distressing. When did this happen?
March 12th of '07.
What time of the day?
3:30 p.m.
Where were you coming from or going to?
I was going to a doctor's appointment southbound on Highway 99.
Anybody in the car with you?
No.
And where were you going or coming?
I was picking up my son, going southbound on 99.
Okay, tell me what happened.
I was in the, there's a carpool lane, and then there's 3 regular lanes. Mr. Sean was a carpool because she had her daughter with her, but she was in the regular lane, and traffic was all backed up. So I was trying to get to my doctor's appointment. I rushed around her in the carpool lane and came back over real quick.
So you cut her off?
Well...
Just a second. So you cut her off?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's
okay.
what you did. Just a second. Just a second. That's exactly what you did. You cut her off.
Okay.
Now, because there is no rule that if you have more than one person in the car, you have to drive in a carpool lane. The carpool lane merely allows you to be in that lane if you're more than one person.
Correct.
But there's no requirement that you go in a carpool lane if you're 2 people.
Correct.
I question you about that, Miss Lacey, because you hear that you were annoyed with her because she should have been in the carpool lane and not taking up space in the other 3 lanes where there was traffic. That's what you seem to indicate here.
Correct.
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. There are tens of thousands of cars on the road. You're complaining about this lady because she didn't want to go in a fast lane with her daughter? That's ridiculous. And then you did the wrong thing. You cut her off. Now, I haven't gotten to you yet, but we will. Because I have a feeling that both of you ladies acted very badly that day. So after you cut her off, what happened?
I proceeded down southbound 99. I took the Florin Road exit and headed eastbound. There's 2 lanes on eastbound Florin. I was in the left lane, and I noticed a couple of minutes after I exited Florin Road, I noticed in my rearview mirror Miss Rashawn in the right lane, and she comes up. She's next to my car yelling at me and calling me a few names.
She's yelling at you. What is she calling you? She's calling you bad names?
She's calling me bad names.
And what did you say to her?
I didn't say anything. I was like, you know, I was trying to get to my doctor's appointment. That's all I was trying to do. And she started calling me the B word and yelling at me for cutting her off, et cetera, et cetera. And next thing I knew, her car is over in my lane, hits my car. I'm looking, and in my lane is a tan SUV, and my first thought was, this lady is going to make me hit this SUV in front of me. So I slammed on my brakes. She had so much force on my car that she ended up over in the left lane, and I took a right onto Palmer House.
right here. And I came down here. Because I wasn't sure, like I said, she was extremely upset, so I was scared to stop or anything. I got on the phone, was trying to get through to 911. She kept following me, and then I lost her, and I came back, and she was parked. So I was trying to take a picture of her license plate. So when I got through to 911, I would have the license plate number. As I was focusing in on the license plate, I had my windows down. She gets out of her car, comes up to my vehicle, to the passenger side, starts screaming and yelling at me on how I hit her car, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, no, I didn't. Next thing I knew, she reaches in through the passenger side window, grabs my purse out of my car, and I was in shock. I was like, wait a minute, that's stealing, that's my purse. So I get out of my car, I go around the back of my car, and she dumps my purse and throws everything on the ground. And I go to pick it up, and she rushes me, scratches me and everything. She is just going at me. And I was in shock, and I believe, excuse my language, but I think I said, what the F, that's assault? And she goes, no, your boyfriend beats you up. I'm like, oh, is that the way we play the game? And then she continues with these two gentlemen came out, pulled her off of me. I asked them if they would stick around and talk to the police. They said no. I went to pick up my belongings off of the ground, and when I went to stand back up, she pushes me. I didn't have a chance to brace myself or anything. I fell back, and my head hit the street, twisted my ankle, bruise on my right arm, everything's on the right side. Again, I get back up and start trying to retrieve my stuff again, and that's when the officer pulled up.
Okay, your version.
That was totally a lie.
Your version.
My version is we were southbound on 99 on our way to pick up my son. We were in the carpool lane. She's tailgating me. My daughter noticed that.
Don't tell me what anybody else knows.
Okay,
what happened from your perspective?
Okay, she went around on the shoulder to get around me. I wasn't in the number 2 lane. I was in the number 1 lane. She went around on the shoulder, started driving wildly. She was weaving in and out of traffic, got back in the carpool lane. I exited off the freeway. My daughter noticed when we were over the overpass. She said, the same car is getting off the freeway. Is that hers? I said, I don't know. So we were driving east on Florin, and then all of a sudden, I saw a car driving up fast behind me. So I moved over to the right lane, and lo and behold, bam, she crashes right into me.
Where was the damage to your car?
Got pictures right here.
See it.
And you can
You have
tell.
pictures of the damage to your car?
Yes.
And she hit me.
Shh. Why don't I have any pictures of the front of either of these cars?
Because I didn't hit her. She hit me. She's claiming.
I said, why don't I have any pictures of the front of either of these cars?
Because there was no damage in the front of my car.
But if I had a picture of that, it would have been helpful.
Okay.
Because she sideswiped me, she didn't.
I did not sideswipe you.
No. This car looks to me as if this car, this is where the impact was in the
That's
front.
her tire marks.
That's where she
Her
crashed
tire
into
was-
me.
Well-
And then you can see on my picture where she stayed on my...
The damage to her car is mostly on the side.
Right.
Damage to your car, mostly over here. Okay, so she hits your car, and?
She tried to veer me to the right into a ditch. Why I had a picture of the ditch there. And then I managed to get ahead of her, so I passed the light, but she went to the right on Palmer House and tried to run from me. So I was like, she's not going to run from me. So I ended up backing up in the street and following her down the street. And she made a U-turn in someone's driveway. I came around behind her. She backed up and just crashed right into the back of my car. You could see the dent by the gas tank there. And then she managed to drive back down the street, went into a church parking lot. She did a donut in there, and I got a picture of the marks on the ground there, if you look at the picture. And she was heading straight for me like she wanted to play chicken. So I was like, this lady has no regard for me and my daughter. And first of all, why would I even hit her with my daughter in the car?
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at the police reports, please.
And I'm a commercial truck driver, so why would I want to ruin my driving record? That's my livelihood. I am a Class A truck driver, so I have no reason to be crashing into anybody.
You told the police that after you took the pocketbook out of her car, which you acknowledged that you did, which was the wrong thing to do, you understand, that she slapped you.
Yes.
Where did she slap you?
Right here on the right side of my cheek.
And that's when you hit her?
Yes.
You have photographs of your injuries?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them, please. You hurt her pretty badly, madam. You hurt her pretty badly. That's unreasonable.
She hit me.
I'm not sure about that. No, you say she slapped you. I believe that, but you assaulted her.
She hit me first.
No, I don't believe that. Not only don't I believe it, but even if she slapped you in the face after you took her purse, she's allowed to do that.
Well, I didn't steal her purse.
Yes, you did.
I grabbed it, yes.
Yes, you did. You stole her purse. The purpose of your removing it was not to steal its contents, was to make sure that you had identifying information about her because she was leaving. You could have had the same identifying information by just taking down her license plate number. You chose not to do that. You committed a felony. You reached into her car and took her purse. You lost your temper. That's a felony.
Well, anybody would under the circumstances.
No, my dear.
Well, not stealing the purse,
I
but
wouldn't
I
have
was
done
hot.
it. I would have stayed in my car until a police officer came. I would have locked my doors, rolled up my windows,
I called
and said,
911.
You may have called 911, but you stay in your car, especially when you have your daughter with you. You don't know what kind of nut this is. All you did was say to me, this person was driving erratically. That's what you said to me. She cut me off. She rammed my car. And instead of sitting in your car and protecting your daughter, you got out of the car and stole a pocketbook.
Actually, I got out of the car to estimate my damages, and she drove up alongside of me, started yelling at me.
So what? So, further proof.
But I was away from her.
You weren't away from her. You walked up to her car and reached into her bag. You can't do that. You understand that? Yeah, good. I'm glad you understand it. And you should be more responsible if you have your child with you. Now, go ahead.
I also asked her if she was on medication, and she said she was.
It's very possible. And if she told you she was on medication, I mean, I know that you didn't ask it in a calm way, because if somebody rams your car, as she rammed your car, you're not calm. So you probably said, what are you on?
No, I asked her, are you on any medication?
And she said?
Yes, I am.
Was that before or after you assaulted her?
That was before.
You got me? In any event, you have medical bills?
I actually don't have medical bills, except for like my prescriptions, so like $60 for prescriptions.
Okay.
I also have a report from, because there's more injuries than the pictures, because when I fell, my head hit the
I'd
ground.
like to see it.
So there's
I didn't cause her to hit her head. She did that on her own.
Medical report.
And my daughter can witness to that.
I'm not going to call your daughter as a witness.
Okay.
I think you put her through quite enough.
Marlene Lacey is accusing fellow motorist Sarah Roshan of ramming her car during an incident of road rage.
What?
It says in the police report that there's no visual marks on her face. She said,
No, I read that there were no visual marks. She was not injured. No, I understand that.
Okay.
I do believe, however, that you damaged her car.
Okay.
I think that you lost it, and I think that you behaved very badly that day, Miss Lacey.
Okay.
Very badly. I think that you were in a rush to get to a doctor's appointment, and you were driving erratically on the road in order to do that. You placed a lot of people's lives in jeopardy, because that's what... You practically acknowledged that in your statement, but she's not allowed to lose her temper and assault you. Now, you were banged up.
Yes.
You were banged up. I'm awarding you $3,500 in fees for your pain and suffering,
Okay.
medical bills, whatever they were.
Okay.
I'm awarding her $3,500 on her counterclaim to fix her car for the damage that you caused.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That means each of you gets nothing. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Rhonda Radcliffe says her daughter Tamara Vaughn had her falsely arrested for assault and stole property from her home. Tamara is countersuing for the assault in question.
Miss Radcliffe, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes.
She's 32 years old, and she's one of how many children?
8.
How many of the 8 children still live at home?
4.
How old are they?
18, 16, 13, and 10.
Are you a working lady?
Yes, I am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a nurse.
Your complaint alleges that your daughter moved back home because she was having some financial problems. And she moved back home with her daughter, who was how old?
15.
It's your claim that that did not work out. Very well. And that your daughter had you falsely arrested for assault. In addition, while you were in jail on her assault complaint, which was ultimately dismissed due to her non-appearance, she stole some property from your home.
Yes.
You want to be compensated for the false arrest as well as for the property that you claim she took from the house. Your daughter says she did not take any property from your house, that you did in fact assault her, that property was taken from her, and she's counterclaiming. Now, when did your daughter move back home?
Sometime in November.
Do you remember?
Sometime in November, towards the end of November.
Why did you move back home, Ms. Vaughn?
I was in a car accident and I injured my back.
When were you in a car accident?
August of 2006.
And?
November of 2006 is when I moved in with her.
How long did you stay?
Until September of 2007.
Yes.
She stayed until October 6th, 2007.
So you were there for almost a year?
Correct.
Not working?
Correct.
Is there anything that prevented you from working?
Yes.
During that year? What?
The pain in my back.
Okay. So now tell me what happened.
Well, it started with a phone call while I'm at work. She had her brother and sister arrested, said that they assaulted her.
You called the police?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
September 20th of 07.
Tell me what happened.
Ray and Aunt Toria were in the living room, acting up, wrestling, I guess. They broke the glass out of the entertainment center. I walked in, tried to ask them what was going on. They were still acting silly, so I told them, go upstairs. You know, I'm calling Mom to let her know what's going on. They started getting belligerent. They refused to go upstairs. My sister tried to leave out the front door. She said that she didn't have to listen to me. She's not going to do nothing I say. She was going to leave.
You mean this sister?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I proceeded to close the door, and I locked it, and I was standing in her way. She then smacked me in my face, and she pulled my hair. And once I got her hands off of my hair, she went to take off through the living room towards the back door. So I went to walk after her to try and stop her.
Why?
She didn't have permission. It was in the evening time. She didn't need to be outside.
Just a second. Were you left in charge of them?
Always. When my mother would go to work, I was in charge.
Is that right?
Well, I never actually said it, but she was the oldest one there.
Okay. So you told her not to leave and you locked the door?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
As I proceeded to walk after her, my brother then grabbed me up around my neck and pulled me down to the ground. When I got him off of me is when I got up and I got my cell phone and I went outside to the side of the house and I called the cops.
Doesn't sound like a very good supervisor to me.
Because the kids don't know how to act?
No, I don't understand why a 32-year-old sister in those circumstances would call the police to have her younger siblings arrested and carted off to jail, as opposed to saying, oh, listen, I'm going to take a breather, I'm going upstairs, I'm going to go in my room, wait until my mother comes home from work, and it's my mother's problem, not mine. But I don't see.
That's happened in the past.
Just a second. Has your mother ever called the police on your siblings?
No.
Right, because that's not what you do.
Right, because if she puts her hands on them, it's not assault. I'm not going to put myself in that situation.
What do you mean if she puts her hands on them, it's not assault? Why
To
would you put your hands
discipline
on
them.
them?
To discipline them.
Ms. Vaughn, that's not your job.
Exactly, so I didn't put my hands on them.
It's not your job to discipline them, and it certainly is ridiculous for you to call the police. What?
The police officers took pictures. There was no red marks on her.
I don't know what happened. I'm just telling you, whatever happened there, if they were fooling around, they weren't fighting with each other. They were messing around, being big, stupid children, and broke something. What did you break?
I didn't break anything.
What did you break?
I didn't break anything.
Well, there was glass broken, I understand.
They knew nothing about the glass.
When you came home from work, was that glass broken?
Yes, it was.
Well, the glass didn't break by itself. Anyway, your sister had no reason, in my view, good reason, to call the police and have you arrested. Number one. That's what you did. So what did you do? Well, you came home, you were furious with her, and you told her she had to leave.
Yes, of course, and she wouldn't.
What did you say to her?
I was more concerned with the children and finding a placement for them so they wouldn't have to go to Columbia and spend God knows how long in a detention center. And once I found a safe placement...
Where did you find a placement?
In the neighborhood with neighbors.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is your 32-year-old daughter wouldn't leave, and you couldn't have the kids back in the house while she was there.
Right.
Why wouldn't you leave?
That's not true. That was my place of residence, and the officer
Just a second.
pressed the
It was
charges.
your place of residence because you were living there, because your mother allowed you to move back because you were not feeling well. But that's not your place of residence. That's her place of residence, and that's her minor children's place
Where
of
I was
residence.
residing.
But once she tells you to leave, you got to go. How much rent did you pay her each month that you were there? Is not an answer.
I was currently working for about 2 months after my accident when I moved in with her,
I'm
and I
not
paid
talking
her
2 months.
$400.
Okay.
After
the last
that,
9 months you were living there, how much rent did you pay her?
$100 a month.
Ridiculous.
Well,
that's not
what I
rent.
could afford.
That's not rent. That covered your food. That covered your
No,
lights.
I bought food.
That
for
covered
the
your
house.
lights, your electricity for you and your daughter. Ridiculous. So you were not a rent-paying person there. So you were living there at your mother's will. You're not a tenant. She told you to leave. You should have left. Continue.
Well, Friday morning they had a court date, and the judge also asked me how old she was and why wasn't she out of my home, and she won't leave my home. So I had to do an eviction. And I had papers to show that I went down and did the eviction. And I come home, I don't talk to her. My daughter witnessed her tearing something up. We had to call the police.
What date?
On the 21st.
September 21st.
Yes, ma'am.
Had she been served with the eviction paper?
Not yet.
Go ahead.
So they couldn't do anything because she was in a lawsuit with them by having them arrested. So nothing was done because she was allowed to tear things up and nobody could stop her.
That's not true.
Well, I go to work Friday night. I come home. I'm a night nurse. I get home at 6:30.
In the morning?
Yes, ma'am. Saturday morning, I walk in my home. My living room looked clean, which is very odd. The kitchen was a total disaster, so I started cleaning up my kitchen, and I read my newspaper and went to bed. I looked at my watch. It was 7:15 when I laid down. I do not know what time it was when someone banged on my door and woke me up. I mean, banged hard. So my children aren't in the house, so the only person in my mind who could do this...
Where are your other 2 children?
Geraldo, the 18-year-old, was there asleep, but the baby, I removed him also because I didn't want her doing anything against him.
Where did you send the baby?
He went to a neighbor's. So I have different ways because of her.
Are there all the children home now?
All of my babies are home now.
Go ahead.
So I woke up with this banging, and I get up and I sling open my bedroom door, and nobody's there. All the doors are standing open. So I look in my bathroom, no one's there, I close it. Garage door's open, I look, no one's there, I close it. I go out the back door, no one's there, I close it. Go through the front, no one's there. Where is her and my granddaughter? I did not know where they're at. So I'm yelling for them, and I'm walking down my porch, looking to the side of the house. I said, I don't know what their games they're playing, but I need to get some sleep. So I was going to go back in, but then I see spots of blood on the sidewalk at the end of my steps coming down the porch. So now my heart is beating. Maybe they needed my help. So I'm looking, I'm following the blood, and I see her stooping down on a cell phone with her arm down, letting the blood flow all over the ground. So I'm yelling to her, get your arm up. What happened? Where's Sherelle? And she's acting like she's afraid of me, and she's running. So I turn around, I run back in the house, want to see where Sherelle is. I go to Geraldo's room, and I'm banging on his door. He's waking up, he's asleep. I said, well, is Sherelle in there? He said, no. I said, come on. I said, Tamara's bleeding. I said, can't find Sherelle. So I run back downstairs, I call 911. Then I run back outside because I'm going to have to stop the flow of blood somehow.
You called 911?
I called 911 to say I don't know where my granddaughter is, and I was trying to tell them real fast what happened. She's bleeding, I need to go stop the blood. So I'm back outside, and there stands my granddaughter with her. And I'm like, Sherelle, what did you do? What's going on? And she said, oh, Grandma, you know what happened. You did this. Click, after what she done to these children, I turn around and call my son. I said, Tamara, it's setting me up. Y'all need to get here. I'm fixing to be arrested.
Okay. What happened to the case?
It was dismissed because she didn't show up in court.
How long were you in jail?
12 hours.
How many days did the children, all 3 children, spend at neighbors' homes?
2 weeks. We were out of our home.
On what date did your daughter finally move out of your house?
She was ordered out on October the 6th at 4 o'clock, and I was ordered back into my home at 5 o'clock.
Okay, Ms. Vaughn, let me hear you.
The 21st is when she did call the cops to try and make a false police report, because after having to deal with my brother and sister the night before, my back was hurting even more. So all day long, I still had my pajamas on, my robe, my house shoes. I laid up in the recliner on my medicine all day.
What kind of medication were you taking?
Baclofen, Lyrica, and hydrocodone.
How long had you been on this cocktail?
Earlier in the year. I'm not sure exactly when.
After you moved out of your mother's house on October 6th, where did you go?
To a friend's house.
Where do you live now?
With my boyfriend.
Is this a boyfriend you had while you were living with your mother?
No.
So you found a boyfriend after you moved out?
Yes.
How long have you been living with the boyfriend?
Several months.
Where are you working?
Nowhere.
Why not?
My back is still injured.
Well, let me ask you this about the boyfriend. Do you have intimate relations with the boyfriend?
Obviously.
Back doesn't bother you?
Yes.
But you do it anyway. Is that right?
That's correct.
It's the same way you work. If your back bothers you a little bit, you get a
Sex
job.
doesn't last 8 hours.
That's not my fault. Now, listen to me. You're 32 years old. She has 3 minor children. If somebody has to leave the house, it has to be you. Whether it's your fault, whether it's the children's fault, doesn't make any difference. You're the intruder.
No.
You are not paying rent, you're not paying a
I was
mortgage, you're
paying
not paying
rent.
gas, you're not paying electric, you're not
Yes.
paying for the maintenance
I
on the
was
house. And you
contributing.
have, I'm speaking, and you have 3 siblings who are not home, who are minors because you're there, and they are into the house because you're there, so you have to move. And you chose not to do that. So now give me what happened when your mother came home in the morning that caused you to be assaulted.
She was still cussing and fussing, threatening.
Well, no, first of all, she was working.
When she came home in the morning.
She came home in the morning from working. I know that that's hard.
I'm
working.
sure.
And what did she say when she came home from work?
Calling me all kind of and telling me that she's going to get me out sooner than what I can get out.
Sounds perfectly right to me. Next. So? And what did you say to her?
Nothing. I was ignoring her at first.
Well, at first. What about, let's go to at second. What did you say to her at second? At first you were ignoring.
When we were in the kitchen and she was still fussing and cussing, she had her back towards me. I was in there. I started making the coffee. I said, I don't want to hear this mess this morning. And that's when she turned around and she hit me in the head with a metal pan.
And?
My eyes went black and I leaned back up against the refrigerator. And the next thing that I know, my arm is cut and it's bleeding. I didn't see what she cut me with, but that's when I started screaming to wake my daughter up and to get the phone so we could call the cops.
You have the police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. You have your police report?
No, I couldn't get one.
This is the one where I was arrested. Okay.
Ah, Miss Radcliffe. The police report indicates, in sum and substance, that a lot of things that you told the police officer didn't quite make sense. It did, however, say that when your daughter was in the kitchen, what she said to you was not some, just leave me alone. According to your daughter, she used some vulgarity to you and said, according to you, leave me the blank alone, is what you told the police you said to your mother. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then that's the last thing she says. She remembers that she got hit over the head with something, maybe a frying pan. While I certainly don't condone anybody using an instrumentality that was capable of causing injury to another human being, I can certainly understand the frustration of the mother of 8 children, 4 of whom are minors and who live at home, who was put in the position of having to take her minor children and pawn them off to neighbors because her 32-year-old daughter, who was probably perfectly capable of some sort of employment, has been mooching off of her for a year with her 15-year-old child on a cocktail of drugs, which is keeping her in a semi-stupor for most of the day. She was forced to move out. She moved in with a friend, and then instead of putting her life together and trying to do what was necessary to make a home for her daughter, she found some guy to support her for a while.
My life is together.
Yeah, your life's not together. If you're 32 years old and you're not employed and you don't have a career or some independent way of earning a living.
Due to a back injury.
Madam, if you can enjoy the bedroom with a new boyfriend, you can get a job. So, I don't believe that you have established to my satisfaction that your daughter had you falsely arrested. In all probability, I think that you did, in fact, clobber her. And I'm not satisfied that the arrest was false. And there were a lot of other people in the house, so I don't think you're going to be able to establish to my satisfaction that she took property from the house when she left. Now, Ms. Vaughn, on the other hand, is counterclaiming for the assault. And I believe that your mother did, in fact, hit you over the head. I believe
And
that.
also cut my arm.
I don't
have
know about that.
pictures.
You may have cut your arm when you fell.
Oh, I didn't hit
Who
her
knows?
either.
I didn't fall.
I have no idea how that happened. Neither do you.
It's
And
not
neither
in-
to me. I don't know how you got cut, Miss Vaughn. In any event.
I know how I got cut because she cut me.
Well, good. Okay, fine. In any event, I also don't think that you can establish to my satisfaction that she took any of your property while she was in jail by having these two children act on her behalf and take property out
It
of the house.
wasn't those two children. It was all 4 children plus
Who knows?
the other
Who
grown
knows?
child.
Who knows? You don't know that for a fact. You are
I do know that
speculating.
for a fact because I was standing right there watching them half the time take the stuff out the house.
Oh, good. So tell me what you saw children take out of the house.
All of this, a lot of the stuff that she's claiming that I took out.
Just a second. Tell me what...
My property came
me-
up
tell
missing
me.
when I was gone out of the house.
Okay. Miss Vaughn, I think you are absolutely entitled to being compensated by your mother for all the aggravation she caused you by you living in the house without her permission, forcing her to take her children and put them elsewhere.
Without
And
permission
I'm
of what?
speaking.
Without permission
I'm
of what?
speaking. I think without living there without permission, you did not have her permission when she told you to move. And I believe she assaulted you. And I believe that you have to be compensated for that, for exactly what it's worth, for all the aggravation that your mother caused you. So I'm awarding you on your counterclaim the sum of $1. That's all. Goodbye.
21-year-old Dana Anthony is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Ryan Anderson, for his share of 2 months' rent and for half of a lease termination fee.
Miss Anthony, the defendant was your boyfriend. You signed a 1-year lease on an apartment with him. He moved out prior to the termination of the lease. You want him to be responsible for certain fees and rent.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson says that you made it impossible for him to live there, and that's why he moved out. Is this the new boyfriend?
Yes.
Stand up. I have a few questions for you. Last name is?
Talbert.
Mr. Talbert, when did you meet Miss Anthony?
First week of December, maybe a day before.
And at that time, Miss Anthony, you and Mr. Anderson were sharing the apartment together,
Yes.
but you had already terminated your relationship.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Talbert, during the month of December 2008, how many nights did Miss Anthony spend in your home?
Roughly 10 to 12 of those nights in my home.
Thank you. You can be seated.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And this is Mr. Anderson's defense to moving out early and not paying you. See, he said that you had a 1-bedroom apartment and you elected to take the bedroom when you separated.
I took the bedroom because I purchased all the furniture in the apartment, and when we broke up, we made an agreement that he would stay in the living room and I would get the bedroom. I said, anytime I'm not there, feel free to stay in the bedroom. I'm not there. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Mr. Anderson says that he did just that. He didn't tell me that that was an agreement that you had. Was that an agreement?
Yes, sir. Or ma'am.
But did move into the bedroom. And when you came home and found him in the bedroom, you put a lock on the bedroom door.
He did not move into the bedroom. He was never in there.
Then, Mr. Anderson, your defense to this action is that she made it impossible for you to live there, which is why you moved out on December 31st. Tell me how she made it impossible for you to live there.
Well, obviously, since we were no longer together, I was just basically when I was home trying to keep to myself, just kind of stay out of her way, leave her alone. And she was constantly flaunting, you know, that she had moved on, that she was with somebody else. You know, I obviously had no way of knowing if she was, but that's what was being said to me. There was an agreement about the bedroom. I did use it a few times, but it was a little weird, you know, still with her stuff being in there, but it was a room and her cats weren't in there, so I used it. And then I came home one day and I looked down and there had been a deadbolt installed on the bedroom door. And the only reason I had access to any clothes or anything for the weekend was because I had left a load of clothes in the dryer. Everything I owned aside from a load of clothes and my computer was in the bedroom.
Why did you put a deadbolt
It was
on
not a
the door?
deadbolt.
What was it?
It was a regular lock, like
Why?
a bathroom door lock.
Why?
Because he was getting threatening, because he was jealous and he was insecure that I was out having fun and he was stuck at home. And he was grilling.
Just a second. Miss Anthony, how did it make any difference if you put a plain old lock on the bedroom door? You weren't sleeping there anyway, most of the time. So why would you put a lock on the bedroom door? Why?
Because he kept getting threatening and asking me and questioning me about where I go, what I'm doing, and when it's none of his business.
But what difference does it make, Miss Anthony?
Because he kept pushing the fact that he wanted the bedroom, and that if I had the bedroom, I should pay more.
But then he wouldn't want to pay more if he had the bedroom.
All right. Miss Anthony, I agree with him. By putting a lock on the bedroom door, you effectively, constructively evicted him from part of his home. And you can't do that. And if that's what you did, you have to take care of the rent yourself. And, I mean, it may have been uncomfortable and was probably a very good idea that one of you left. But the fact that you precipitated it by changing the rules and putting a lock on the bedroom door when you, in fact, said to him, you can use it whenever you want it, whenever I'm not home. And according to Mr. Talbot, you spent the last half of the month of December at his home. So there was really no reason why Mr. Anderson couldn't use the bedroom and had to be relegated to the living room. And you changed the rules. You pay the rent.
Obviously, it didn't stay locked.
The case is dismissed.
Lisa White is suing business owner Susan York for the cost to repair her vehicle. Lisa claims Susan's son, 8-year-old Dylan, hit it with a rock.
Miss White, it is your complaint that Miss York's little boy, I assume this little boy, was throwing rocks in the street, and one of the rocks hit your car, causing some damage.
That's correct.
And you want his mother to pay for the damage. Miss York says she doesn't think her son was responsible for that. He was merely rolling rocks, although she wasn't there. She says that it was really your conduct that was outrageous on that day. So tell me when this happened.
It was approximately 7 to 7:15 in the morning on May 12th. I was on my way to work. I was traveling down East Yacht Drive.
Where is that?
It's in Oak Island, North Carolina. As I approached the intersection where the children were, they were in the street.
How many children were in the street?
Approximately 5, 2 boys and 2 or 3 girls.
I assume they were waiting for the school bus?
That's correct.
Okay.
As I approached, I noticed that they were playing in the street, so I slowed down. They moved to the shoulder of the intersection. One little boy was throwing stones into the other empty lot across the street, and as I approached, Dylan threw a rock at my car, and I heard it hit.
You saw him do that?
Yes, ma'am.
So you stopped your car, and what did you do?
I got out, and I'm like, you, come here, what's your name? And I said, look at what you've done to my car. I said, where do you live? He said, down the street. I said, you get in my car, and I'm taking you to your mother to show her what you're doing at the bus stop. Well, he had extra stones in his other hand, and he threw those down. I said, no, you pick those up, you put them in my car, and we're going now. So he got into the car, and I took him straight to his mother's house. I told him to go upstairs and take the stones with him to show whoever was there. I didn't know which parent was home. I said, take those and show them what you've been throwing at my car, and send them downstairs to talk to me. And she came down to talk with me.
And what did she say?
Well, she asked him, did he do it? And why did you do that? I told you not to throw stones. I told her.
What did he say?
He's like, well, it was an accident. I'm like, no, it was not. I saw him do it.
He said to his mother it was an accident.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up next to your mother. Dylan, how could it be an accident if you were throwing the stones?
I was rolling them across the road, and she was going like 70.
Dylan, I don't want your nose to get long. I want you to tell me how it's an accident that stones that you were rolling on the ground hit somebody's car.
I rolled it, it bounced up on another
You rolled
rock.
it and it bounced up. A rock.
It hit another rock and it bounced.
That's a fib, Dylan. You're not supposed to fib anytime, especially not when you're in court, because that's a fib. If your mother doesn't know it's a fib, I know it's a fib. You and your friends were throwing rocks, right?
Yes.
And one of the rocks hit her car.
Yes.
See how easy that was?
Yes.
What your complaint is, Miss York, and one that I quelling, is that Miss White exercised very poor judgment in putting your son into her car.
This is correct.
Because I don't think North Carolina is any different from any other place in this country. You don't take somebody else's child and put them in your car. That's very poor judgment, Miss White. I don't think there would have been anything wrong in you saying, if you live right down the street, you go right home, I'm going to follow you, so that you would know where he lived. But you don't take anybody else's child and put them in your car. Now, can I see a picture of the damage to your car?
I do have a photo, but you cannot see the actual dents or chips in the car, in the paint.
Well, it should just be one.
No, there's actually several. I have a police report stating that the officer noted 6 chips areas.
Well, he didn't chip it 6 times. He threw one rock. That's according to you.
He had several stones in his other hand. I don't know how many stones actually hit.
I don't know how many children were involved in throwing stones, but you said to me, I saw him throw a stone. I heard it hit my car. There's a difference in hearing one or hearing six.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Mm-hmm.
When she drove to my house, I saw one little dot, and then in return, it ended up being dents. I never saw a dent. She even herself said it probably won't be much.
Well, what she's suing you for is $300.
Yes, ma'am.
Which isn't much. I think what your complaint is, quite frankly, despite the fact that I read your answer, and your answer gave me the same malarkey that he was rolling stones. Children don't roll stones. They throw stones at cars. And that's what he did, because that's what he just told me he did.
Right, yes, ma'am.
So you're responsible, because if you want to make sure that your son doesn't do that, and I assume he's done it before, right?
Not that I'm aware of, no, ma'am.
Never heard of him throwing rocks before?
Not at cars.
At anything?
I mean, he's a little boy. I guess he does throw rocks, yes.
Okay, well, if he's a little boy and he throws rocks, then you should be out there with him waiting for the school bus.
Your Honor, I would like to say when he came home from school, I had asked him what happened. And he admitted that he had been rolling rocks.
Rolling rocks doesn't...
Rolling rocks, throwing rocks, and one hit her car. And then he proceeded to show me how she forcefully put him in her car. I have a written statement for...
I don't take statements from people. She had no right to put him in the car, take him in the car, ask him to get into the car, pick him up. Absolutely no right to do that. He wasn't injured. He went off to school that day. Did you go off to school that day?
Yes.
Did you have a good day in school that day?
Yes.
So he wasn't injured, emotionally or physically. But she did the wrong thing, and I've told her she did the wrong thing. So I read her the riot act. You still have to pay to have a car fixed.
That's fine.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Donna Sands is suing her former roommate, Barbara Hurst, for unpaid rent. Donna also claims Barbara stole her boyfriend.
Miss Sams, Miss Hurst was your roommate for a period of time, and you both were signatories on the lease.
I am the signatory on the lease, and then when she moved in, I had to sign a notice to change my rent, which raised my rent $800 a month for having a roommate.
Can I see that, please? Thank you. Your complaint alleges that after she moved in, she did pay the rent for a period of time, and then she lost her job.
Right, that's correct.
And you took on additional work responsibilities to cover the rent, with her promise that she would pay you back. She not only didn't pay you back, but according to you, she has since moved out and moved in with your... Miss Hurst says that, A, you were finished with the boyfriend before she moved in with him, and second, that she did the chores around the house in exchange for the rent, and there was never an agreement to pay you back.
Chores for the rent?
Shh, just a second. Okay. So I have a few questions.
Okay.
When did this roommate relationship begin?
She moved in on September 1st of last year.
How long did you know her prior to her moving in?
A couple of years. We worked together.
What prompted her to move in with you?
Well, we were talking in the lunchroom one day, and she was telling me that she wasn't real happy with her living arrangement, and my rent was $1,200 a month. But it was a big house, and it was just me and my dogs. And so, you know, I told her I would check into it. I didn't know how it would happen as far as the lease goes. I'd have to check with my landlord. And I did that, and then I talked to her the following week. Even though the rent would be raised $800 a month, I would be paying $200 less than she would be paying, about, I don't know, maybe less than what she was paying before.
Okay, great. So you moved in September of 2004?
Yes.
When did you pay rent?
I paid rent for September, October, and November, and I paid $300 in December.
If you had paid rent, how much would you have paid from December until you moved out?
$5,000.
Is that right?
Yeah, but she made a $300 payment in December, and then in April she gave me $200, so it was $4,500.
Well, I'd like you to explain to me what happened.
Well, I met Donna's ex-boyfriend.
He wasn't my ex then.
Shh. Don't. I'm speaking to her. Go ahead.
I met Donna's now ex-boyfriend in November, and they had broken up, and we hit it off, and we started dating, and I didn't feel that I needed to really tell her at the time because she was...
Let's skip over the boyfriend and get to the rent.
I got laid off in December.
Yes.
And I was looking for a job, and I didn't find another one until April.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't pay rent.
Well, what did you do all day?
I was looking for work, and I would clean the house, and...
Well, who did you expect to pay your rent?
I figured I'd get another job.
So you owe her the money?
She was happy with the way things were working. No money was mentioned until I told her about me seeing her ex-boyfriend.
Madam, she's not related to you, is she?
No.
Could you move your hair? I can't see both of your eyes. Thank you very much. I mean, why would you think that this lady has the responsibility to take care of you? Forget the fact that you started to date her boyfriend. I don't even care about that. Because, you know, when it comes to issues of the heart, who knows what happens? Why would you think this lady's responsibility to take care of you?
I don't think it's her responsibility. I thought she was helping me out as a...
Why? Because you moved there, her rent practically doubled. Duh.
She didn't say anything until I brought up the fact that I was dating her ex-boyfriend.
She owed me the money for the rent, and she knows she did.
Owes you the money for the
rent.
rent.
And on top of that, then she steals my boyfriend. She met him 2 months before she ever lost her job.
Listen, nobody steals a boyfriend.
They can have each other.
Right. Nobody steals somebody, not these days. If he wanted to go, he went, and good riddance to him, right?
Yeah.
And good riddance to her?
But it's still
She owes you $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,500. Thank you, that's all.
Aaron Height is suing his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old Krista Kwalzik, for the cost of a trip to Cancun, the return of an engagement ring, and the return of a dog.
Ah, Mr. Height, you and the defendant dated, according to you, contemplating marriage. You at some point gave her a ring that you say is an engagement ring. You want that back. Things didn't work out. You also claim that after an argument, because the two of you were living together, the defendant left and took a dog that you had, at least in part, contributed to purchasing. You want that money back, and you want the cost of a non-refundable airplane ticket that you put on your credit card, her non-refundable ticket, for a trip that the two of you were supposed to take. The defendant says the ring was a gift, the dog is hers, and she paid for the last trip that you took together, so this trip, well, you're going to have to pay for that because she paid for the last one. All right, let's take care of the ring first. That's the easiest. Can I see it, please? Well, that certainly looks like an engagement ring to me. You know, that comes under the old category, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You know?
Yes.
When did you purchase the ring, sir?
Actually, I purchased the ring in 2004, Your Honor.
For her?
No, Your Honor. I didn't know her back in 2004.
You mean just in case you met somebody?
No, I was in a relationship before, but I never gave that ring to another girl. I just had it, and I couldn't return it back then. So it never was on another girl's finger. But I did have it, Your Honor.
Okay. By the way, did you ever tell her that you've had this ring since 2004?
I didn't mention that, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Okay. Me and the defendant, we broke up January 8th. And when she took possession of that ring was February 6th. She invited me, because we had that dog together. It was her dog. His name's Monty. So she invited me to go and see how the dog was progressing, see how big he got. It was a dog school. So it was a dog school behind a pet store. So I went. And during our relationship, Krista was always like, if you ask me to marry you, the answer is yes. She would get mad when I said I would want to wait at least a year. So there was no, like, big surprise, like she would say no if I asked her to marry her or anything.
Okay, so you went to the dog school.
Okay. We went
with Monty.
And she didn't believe that I had an engagement ring. So I just brought it with me to show her. So I showed her.
So you were trying to get back together again?
Well, I did care about her, but I did not propose to her in the back of a pet store at a dog school. I was just showing her the ring like I had it, and I really cared about you, and take a look, you know? She put it on her finger.
Take a look. This is how much I care.
Take a look. So she put it on her finger. She loved it. It's gorgeous. I said, it's not a good idea. I'm not giving it to you. It's not a gift. There's no way I'm giving you a $5,200 ring.
You didn't even clean it.
I never wore it.
You didn't even clean it. It's dirty.
It's got clear evidence that it's been worn before. There are deep scratches into it as if it had been worn.
It was never worn, Your Honor.
I never once...
Well, she did put it on because she put it on her finger that day and got in her car.
Doesn't make any difference. Go ahead. So you let her try it on.
I let her try it on, and I asked for it back. She was like, no, can I hold on to it? Her thing was, can I hold on to it? All right, that was on February 6th. On the 9th, I ended up still going on that Cancun trip with one of my friends.
So you went?
I went.
With your friend?
With my friend, right.
Okay, so we've taken care of the plane ticket.
Though the plane ticket, that's not transferable.
You still have that plane?
She could have it. It's hers. It's $368 that I'm asking for, and she can have the credit, you know.
Who paid for the last trip you took?
She did, Your Honor.
$2,400.
That sounds like even Steven.
I paid for a lot of other gifts. Or most of our relationship, like...
Listen, let me ask you a question. You have absolutely no use for this ring.
It was a gift.
First of all, it's an engagement ring.
He never proposed to me, Your Honor.
I know he didn't. I also don't believe that he ever gave it to you. I believe him. I believe him. And if I didn't believe him, I would still tell you, you have to give it back to him. Men don't like to give somebody something that's very expensive, like an engagement ring, and then, for whatever reason, I understand you moved out.
Which my mother helped
Your mother?
me. My mother.
Your mother came over to the house, according to him. Next thing you knew, you were gone. Give him back his ring, please, Bird. All right, the ring is yours. The trip you took with your friend, I hope you enjoyed. You pay for it. Let's get to the dog. And then I will leave you both in peace, and hopefully you can say, we've had enough. It's over. Move on. Now, when did you purchase Monty?
December 22nd, Your Honor.
And you were together at the time?
We were boyfriend, girlfriend, yes, Your Honor.
You were living together?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you put in $900 according to the papers for the dog?
According to him, but I did pay $1,200 cash for the dog. I have
And
the
how
receipt.
much did Mr. Height put into the dog?
He says...
Don't tell me what he says.
Nothing.
Nothing? He says he put in $300. Is that what you put in?
Your Honor, I did.
I'd like to see the bill of sale for the dog.
This is down in Willington, Connecticut, is where we purchased the dog. This is from an ATM machine showing
I'd
in
like
Willington,
to see it, please.
Connecticut. I took out $300 on the 22nd. And she paid with a check $900 and my $300 in cash.
I paid cash, $1,200.
Show me where you took it out of a bank, the $1,200.
Your Honor, I'm a bartender, and all of my tips are in cash. So if he put in the $300 like he said,
There's no question he put in
he should have signed the bill of sale.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. There's no question he put in $300. That doesn't necessarily mean it's his dog. What else did you buy for Christmas?
The dog was not a Christmas present.
I'm just asking you.
Oh,
I'm
the
asking
cage
you
for
what
the
you
dog?
bought her for Christmas.
Oh, what I bought her for Christmas? Tickets to a Broadway show in New York in a hotel room.
Didn't you go with her?
No.
You mean she was going to go alone to the hotel, and she was going to go alone to the Broadway show?
Well, we broke up. The show was in February, Your Honor.
Listen to me. When you got tickets to the Broadway show, I assume you got 2 tickets.
Yes, Your Honor.
For the 2 of you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the plan was for the 2 of you to go to a hotel?
Yes, Your Honor.
What else did you get for her?
The cage for the dog was like $170. I bought her. What else did I get her for Christmas? That's a good question. Oh, I got her tickets for Six Flags. I bought her a coat, like, I don't know, like $150 coat.
What'd she buy you?
Well, actually, she bought me Chris Rock tickets down at Mohegan Sun, which she took. She never gave to me. What else did she give me? I can't really remember. She didn't give me as near...
Who went to the Broadway show?
I didn't go. I don't know if she went.
Did you go? No? Okay, listen. Forget the dog. You got your ring back?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you a happy person?
Yes, but I would
Perfect. Be happy. Be happy. It's over. You got your ring back. You've held on to the ring 4 years.
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
Maybe it's not good luck.
No. I know.
Did you ever think of that? It's over. Finished. Thank you. Goodbye.
Jennifer Spurgeon is suing her son, 25-year-old Ozzie, when he was arrested for writing fraudulent checks.
Miss Spurgeon, you are willing to acknowledge here in court that this is your child.
Yes, my son.
According to your complaint, he owes you for bailing him out of jail.
Yes, he does.
He says he never asked you. You bailed him out on your own. What were you in jail for, sir?
I forged some checks in 02.
For forgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And the forgery was in 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
When were you incarcerated?
New Year's Eve 05.
Is that because that's when you were arrested or because you violated your parole or probation?
That's when I got arrested.
For the forgery in 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
It took them 3 years to figure it out?
It took them 3 years to catch me, ma'am. Because I didn't do anything else wrong.
Is that the only time you've been arrested?
No, ma'am.
Between 2002 and 2005, how many times were you arrested?
0.
Before 2002?
Couple, 2 or 3.
For what?
Me and a couple of my friends stole a racing four-wheeler.
Stole a what?
A four-wheeler, a racing four-wheeler when I was 17.
How old are you now?
25.
Oh, that's a long time ago. What else?
Possession of marijuana.
When was that?
I was 19.
Anything else?
Possession again.
Don't learn your lesson.
No, ma'am.
Now, is that forgery case resolved at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it resolved after a trial or a plea?
After a plea.
What did you plead guilty to and when?
I pled guilty to forgery. I'm not sure. It was like the last case was just resolved 2 months ago.
Which last case?
Well, there was 3 counties the checks were in. It was 3 different counties.
Where'd you get the checks from?
A friend of mine.
Whose checks were they?
His checks.
You stole the checks from him or he gave them to you?
He gave them to me.
To do what with?
To get money.
What were you using the money for?
All kinds of different things.
So it took whatever county was 3 years to figure out what was going on. So you were arrested December 31st, 2005.
Yes, ma'am.
What was your bail?
In the beginning, it was $89,000.
Was your friend arrested too?
I don't have any idea.
Why was your bail so high?
Because of the amount of checks that there was.
How much?
I don't remember.
Give me a ballpark figure.
$1,500.
How long did you spend in jail?
46 days.
Was that the first time you had been incarcerated?
For 46 days, yes, ma'am.
More than a day or two?
No. It was the second time.
How long was the previous time you were incarcerated for a substantial period?
A couple days, no.
A couple of days?
Yes, ma'am.
So this was 46 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you like it?
No, it wasn't fun at all.
How many times did you speak to your mother? Did you call her?
Oh, yeah.
You call her every week?
Every couple days.
What'd you talk about?
Everything. How I was doing, how I was feeling. Was I learning anything? Was I going to do it again? My daughter.
You have a child?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do for a living now, Mr. Stephan?
I run a concrete business.
A what?
Custom concrete business.
Custom concrete?
Yeah.
You work all the time?
Most of the time.
You make a living?
Yes, ma'am.
You filed tax returns last year?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How much did you earn?
I don't remember.
Ballpark.
$35,000.
Nice. And you only have one child?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
I live with my father.
Still working the same business that you did last year when you were
No, ma'am.
making $35,000?
No, ma'am.
So you left a good business and you went into the custom concrete business?
Yes, ma'am.
So you must make more money?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Love it. Now, it's one of the things you spoke to about your mother, how unhappy you were in prison?
In jail? Yeah, of course.
Did you discuss with her bailing you out?
It came up time to time.
How did it come up?
I would ask her, she would bail me out, and she would tell me no.
And? And?
And?
But look where you are. You're here. 46 days later, you're here. So how did it come about, sir, that you got bailed out?
I finally made it to the last county that I was going to, and I made a phone call to my mom, and she had said...
You made a phone call to your mom at the last
said,
county. Shh. We do everything my way here, because it's my playpen. So you finally got to the last county where you had a shipment, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the bail in the other counties had been sort of resolved, so you were waiting to get to the last place because they weren't letting go of you until you got to the last place, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So now you got to the last place and you called your mom and you said...
Hi, Mom, what's up?
And she said...
I mean, basically, that's what I called her and said, hey, how you doing? And she told me to call her back in an hour. She was working on something.
And that's all you said to her. Hi, Mom, what's doing?
How's it going? Yeah.
How's it going?
And she...
All right, good. Now he's at the last county. What day is it, Mrs. Spurgeon?
Around the 7th or 8th of February, 06.
And he calls you from the last county that wants him,
Yes.
right? And what does he say to you, and what do you say to him?
He was pretty upset.
What did he say?
Mom, I can't take it anymore. You've got to get me out of here. I've called Grandma. Grandma can't help. She has no money. She's on disability, my father's pension. And
is this your mother?
This is my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I told him that I couldn't get him out. I didn't have any kind of money. All I had was my credit cards.
And he said?
I got a friend that's a bondsman. If you'll call him, he'll cut us a deal.
He said?
Ozzy gave me the name of the bondsman to call.
And did you call?
I did call him, yes.
And did you get a deal?
$1,500 is not a deal when, you know, I didn't get to spend any of it. I had to give it away.
Is that what it cost you to get him out?
Yes, all totally.
What's your mother's last name?
McMullen.
Would you step up, Miss McMullen? How many grandchildren do you have?
17.
Is he one that you like?
He always calls up and says, this is your favorite grandson. That's okay.
Yeah, he's got a gift of gab. Did he call you from jail and ask you to bail him out?
Well, he said he needed help getting out, but...
Did he call you?
Yes, he did, several times.
Several times. And he said, I need help getting out?
Mm-hmm. He wanted to get out.
What did you say to him?
I can't help you. I'm on a fixed income, so I can't help you.
And what did he say to you?
I know. I guess he was fishing.
How many times did he call you? Trying to see if he could get some money?
3 or 4 times, yeah.
Remember calling your grandmother?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask her for money?
Oh, yeah.
Remember calling your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask her for money?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Now we got it. Now you can be seated.
Okay,
thank you very much. See, I knew you might lie about your mother, Mr. Stephan, but I knew you wouldn't lie about your grandmother. You made some payments to your mother on this bail. How many payments did you make on the bail?
I gave her a couple $100.
Just answer my question.
I gave her a couple $100.
200.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what he gave you?
He actually paid it to the bonds company.
How much does he still owe? When you paid off the entire amount?
$1,350.
Okay, so these are my questions, Mr. Stephan. When you forged those checks with your buddy and got some cash, whatever it was, $1,500, did you buy anything for your mother?
No, ma'am.
Did you buy anything for your grandmother?
No, ma'am.
Did you give your mother any money?
No, ma'am.
Did you give your grandmother any money?
No, ma'am.
Did your mother get any enjoyment whatsoever from the proceeds of your forgery?
No.
Did she know or in any way help you forge those checks?
No.
So that when you got busted for check forgery, this was owing solely to your bad behavior, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why should anybody else suffer for your bad behavior?
They shouldn't.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,350.
Thank you, Judge.
19-year-old Gabriel Chavarria says ex-girlfriend Erica Kallick owes for burning his clothes and punching him. Erica is countersuing, claiming Gabriel gave her a black eye.
Mr. Chavarria, the defendant is your former girlfriend, according to your complaint, after an argument at your sister's house. Is this your sister?
That is correct.
Miss Kallick assaulted you, and later she burned some clothes that you had been laundering at her house. Miss Kallick says she didn't burn your clothes, she doesn't know what you're talking about, but that you assaulted her during this altercation, and she is counterclaiming. Now, when did this altercation take place at your sister's house?
On October 7, 2005.
Tell me about it.
I was in the process of moving my clothing from my friend's house to my mom's house. So I asked Erica if I can do my laundry at her mom's house, and she said yeah.
Why didn't you do the laundry at your mother's house?
Because she doesn't have a washer and dryer.
Do you have a key to that house?
No.
How did you get in?
Her brother was there.
Who was this?
That's her brother.
Did you let him into the house?
No, he wasn't there. Like, I don't remember him letting him in.
Don't speak. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and I did my laundry, and there's some things that I dry, and then there's other things that I hang up. So I hung up all my clothing in her closet.
You hung up wet clothes in her closet?
I hung up my jeans, some of my work shirts, a couple sweaters, and that's about it.
Go ahead.
So I went and picked her up at about 12:30.
Where did you pick her up from?
From school.
Where do you go to school?
At Spokane Community College.
What are you studying?
I'm going for administrative systems.
What time did he pick you up at school?
12:30.
And where did you go?
We went back to my house.
When you got back to your house, was his laundry dry or wet?
When he left him from his friend's house, they were still in his trunk. He never did laundry at my house. He was going to, but we ended up going to go look for apartments to live in.
How do you know they were in his trunk?
Because he had brought them from his friend Mike's house.
What I'm asking you, Miss Kallick, is how do you know his clothes were in his trunk?
Okay, I don't know. I'm assuming that they were.
Fine. What did you go to your house for?
Because we went and got a paper, and we sat there at my house and like circled apartments and called and made an appointments to go look at the apartments.
Where was your brother?
He was in his room.
Did you see him there?
Yes.
Did you go into his room?
Yes.
He didn't come out to you. You went into his room.
Well, not at this time. He was...
I'm just asking you a question.
No, I went into his room.
That's what I asked you. Next.
When we were looking for apartments, we went to one place, and we didn't really like it, so we decided to go to my sister's house, Clarissa. Me and Clarissa's ex-boyfriend went to the store, and when I came back, my friend Mike said Erica's in the room talking to her ex-boyfriend. So I went to listen on the phone to see if it was true, and she was on the phone talking.
Just a second. What do you mean you went to listen in on the phone?
I went into my sister's room to
And you picked up the extension?
Yeah.
That's pretty gross.
Okay. Then I went into the room and asked Erica why she was calling her ex-boyfriend, and then she said, "Why do you care?" And I was like, "Because I'm your boyfriend." I was like, "Would you want me to be calling my ex-girlfriend at one of your brother or sister's house and then be trying to hide it from my sisters like you're doing, like you're going to go cheat on me or something?" Then she got up and she's like, "Oh, you're always so jealous," and she started cussing me out and screaming at me. Then I took the phone from her, and then that's
How
when
did you get the phone from her?
Because I told her to leave.
Well, so far, all I'm hearing is, and I said to her, how would you think you would feel if it were me talking to an ex-girlfriend at your brother's house? And I took the phone from her. Tell me how you took the phone from her, sir. The phone is in her hand, yes.
And then I grabbed the phone from her.
Okay, well, now we get to the grab part. Her hand, and what happened when you grabbed the phone from her hand?
I told her to leave my sister's house.
You grabbed the phone from her hand. Did she pull back?
No.
She just gave you the phone?
She didn't give it to me. She tried to keep it in her hand.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Pay careful attention. Life has a certain rhythm to it. There are certain natural things that happen.
Yeah.
And when you get to be my age, things become more natural. You know, if it doesn't make sense, it usually doesn't happen. So that she's talking to the ex-boyfriend on the phone. You go to grab the phone out of her hand. She pulls back. You pull back. So now you're in a struggle for the phone, right?
Correct.
And then what happened, sir?
So I had the phone in my hand.
How did you do that?
I took the phone from her hand.
You overpowered her.
That is correct.
And?
And then that's when she hit me in my temple and once in my nose. And then I pushed her. And during the whole thing, that's when my sister walked in and was trying to pull us away from each other. And so I was walking outside, and that's when Erica pulled me back in and was hitting me all over in my neck, in my chest, and my back. And then I hit her in the eye because it was for self-defense. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't get away from her.
So the police came, and what happened when the police came?
Okay, before the police came, I was outside smoking a cigarette, and then Mercedes, Erica's daughter, came outside and asked me if I can give them a ride home. I said, yeah, and that's when Erica came barging outside and slammed the door open, and this door hit Mercedes in the face and gave her a bloody nose. And I was like, Erica, what are you doing? And then she said, look at my eye. And then I was like, look at my face, Erica, look at what you did. If you didn't hit me first, I wouldn't have to defend myself.
What injuries did you have on your face?
I had cuts and bruises above my eye, under my eye. I had a couple lumps on my head. And
when the police came, did they arrest you?
No.
Did they arrest her?
No, because she wasn't there. She left before the police came.
Did you file my part of the story? Because this.
I'm going to get to you.
Okay. Well, no.
I'm going to get to you.
Okay.
Does anybody have a copy of the police report?
No.
No.
According to the plaintiff, you had a prior incident involving domestic violence with him. Is that true?
Correct.
When was that?
June 2nd, 2005.
Were you taken into custody on that day?
Yes, I was.
How did you assault him?
I slapped him.
So that you're not a stranger to slapping him.
Oh, no. I've done it before.
What happened when he pulled the phone away from you?
He didn't even pull the phone away from me.
So tell me what happened when he came into the bedroom, which you acknowledge that he did.
Yes.
Came into the bedroom and you got into a heated argument about you're allegedly speaking to a former boyfriend.
I wasn't speaking to anybody. It was his friend Mike that was talking to my ex-boyfriend because they're friends and they were going to go out to a party or something.
So you never got on the phone to say hello?
No, never.
So when he came inside and said, what's going on? Let me hear.
He stood up and, well, I stood up because I was on the... And
what were you doing sitting on the floor?
We were all sitting on the floor.
Who's all?
Me, his friend Mike, and his other sister.
You mean the two of you weren't alone in the room at the time?
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
And I stood up because he got on the other line and he heard my ex-boyfriend talking, but I wasn't speaking to him. So he came in and said that I was trying to call him, and it's just common sense that why I wouldn't call my ex-boyfriend at his sister's house. So I stood up and he was calling me all these names and pushed me, so I pushed him back and he hit me in the room. It wasn't in the living room or where he said it was. It was in the room, and I fell back on the bed and got up and then pushed him again, and we just kind of got in a fight, but I didn't punch him or slap him or anything. And then he had a scratch right here, and that was the only thing that he had. I have pictures.
Just a second. He had a scratch from what?
Well, I'm guessing I scratched him. I don't remember.
Well, you must have scratched him because according to you, all I heard was I pushed him.
No, and then we got into a fight. But I didn't punch him or anything, like
you
he
scratched
said.
him.
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah?
I guess.
Let me ask you this question, madam. If you scratched him and he just had a little scratch over here, you think that he overreacted by punching you in the eye?
Yes, I do.
That's too bad. You put your hands on somebody and scratch them, give them a little scratch. Sometimes you get, listen to me, sometimes you get the worst of the deal. Somebody's going to get the bad part of a bargain every time there's an altercation, a physical altercation. Somebody's going to get hurt a little bit more than another person. And just because you're the woman doesn't give you the right to put your hands on another person. And if you put your hands on another person, you hurt them a little bit, and they hurt you a lot, that comes under the category of too bad.
It was in self-defense, Your Honor.
Listen to me. Listen to me. That comes under the category of too bad. You can't scratch him and then say, well, I can scratch you, but you better not punch me in the eye. You better not give me a black eye. Now, when he gave you the black eye, were you angry?
Of course.
And then you went home with your daughter. Now, did you hurt your daughter that day?
No, I didn't. She got a bloody nose, but I did not do it.
Well, who did it?
I don't know.
That should have been your primary concern, not your black eye, how your 4-year-old daughter got a bloody nose.
It wasn't. That was not my concern.
Listen to me. Because according to him, he says he knows how your daughter got it. You came, you opened the door on her face, and that's how she got a bloody nose. Then you put her in the car and you took her home. When did you notice her bloody nose?
Right away, right when it happened.
Well, if you noticed it right when it happened, how did it happen?
Because my back was faced toward her, and then she started crying. I said, what happened? She goes, I got hit in the nose, and it was bleeding. That's the only thing. Then I grabbed her and walked downstairs and walked to my mom's work because he wouldn't give me a ride home.
Let me see an inventory, sir, about what you allege was in her house.
All my clothes were in her house, but I had to go and get new clothes. These are just the receipts of all my clothes that I had to buy. And here's a letter from my supervisor from all the scratches and cuts and welts on my head.
Listen to me. I believe she assaulted you. I believe that you hit her and gave her a black eye. Terrific. That's quite a way to behave in front of a 4-year-old. Put your hand down. You went in there angry. If I believe what you say, sir, if I believe what you say, which is different from what she says, you put your hands on her first, only by trying to take the phone away from her.
That is
You
correct.
struggled over the phone. You have no right to put your hands on anybody in an aggressive way. Put your hands on her in an aggressive way if I believe you. I believe somewhere in between these two stories is the truth. But if you each wound up with a couple of scratches and a black eye, it sounds to me like you deserved each other. How do you know she burned your clothes?
My sister called her later that night and asked Erica how she was doing, if her eye was okay.
Up here. Tell me your last name.
Chavarria.
Did you speak to her later that day?
Yeah, I called.
Just a second. You called to ask her if her eye was okay?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said it was still black. It was still hurting.
And?
I asked her how her daughter's bloody nose was, and she said it was better. And I said, well, Erica, don't throw away his clothes. And she said, no, tell him I'm going to burn him and throw him away. I said, Erica, don't cause drama, because, and then she's like, no, and then she hung up on me.
Sit down. You had jeans, sweaters, work shirts. How many work shirts?
About 10.
Get out of here. Let me see the bills that you have. Let me see the bills that you have.
Donna, can I say something?
Go ahead.
When she called me, she never asked about his clothes because his clothes were never at my house. She asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah. I said, why are you going to call, now and ask me if I'm okay when she didn't try and do anything when he hit me?
What about when you hit him?
What do you mean?
Did she try to do anything when you hit him?
No. She tried breaking us up and saying, Gabriel, just stop, stop.
All the clothes that you purchased, sir, were $453. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $453. Your counterclaims dismissed. That's all.
Verna Rittenauer claims her estranged son-in-law, Brian Hill, owes for a loan and babysitting fees. Brian says Verna and her daughter are deadbeats.
Ms. Rittenauer, Mr. Hill is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law, and it is your claim that he owes you for a small loan that you made to him to pay his mortgage and for some babysitting services for your 3 grandchildren.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hill says that the mortgage payment was your idea. There was never any discussion of repayment for it, and he's going to tell me the story about the babysitting services. I want to start with you, Mr. Hill. How long have you been married?
Since '95.
And how old are your children?
10, 7, and 12.
How long have you been separated from your wife?
Since '05.
And how long have the children been living with you? You have custody
Since
of it?
'05.
Since '05.
Yes, ma'am.
Did your wife leave the house?
Yes.
Did she have somebody else?
At the time, no, I don't know. I don't think so.
But she left?
Yes.
And she left you with the children?
Well, when she originally left, she took the kids with her. The kids wasn't happy living with Miss Rittenauer here. The kids told Tina this many times. Tina told me over the phone that I could have custody. We went to court for the custody.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Was custody adjudicated in court?
Yes. When we went
That's
to
all I
court.
have to hear. Custody was adjudicated in court?
Yes.
Did you and your wife make an agreement with regard to the custody of the children?
Yes.
So it was resolved between the two of you that you would have custody and she would have visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get child support for the children?
It's court-ordered, but I haven't received the first check yet.
And how long has it been since you got child support from their mother?
I believe it was April or May of last year, '06.
Now, Ms. Rittenauer, when do you claim you made this loan to Mr. Hill with regard to the mortgage payment?
7th,
of 2006.
Tell me about it.
Mr. Hill was at my house stating that him and the children wanted to move back to his home because he was living with his mom, but he didn't have the money for the mortgage payment. I stated to Mr. Hill that I would lend it to him. He come back and said that he did not want any handouts and that he would pay me back. And I stated that he can make payments, and I haven't received a penny from Mr. Hill.
Your Honor, that's wrong.
Okay. Now tell me about the babysitting.
The babysitting, Mr. Hill asked me if I would watch the 3 children for him while he worked, that he would pay me. And I said, okay, $75 a week, and he okayed that. And I said, but he had to be home by 7 that evening. Well, Mr. Hill called me that Friday, because it was only a week that I watched him. That Friday, he called me, and he stated that he would be a few minutes late, that his sister was in a car accident. And I said, okay. This was at 5 p.m. I called him at 10:07 in the evening to ask him if he would be back by 8 to pick up the children. And he said, yes, Vern, I'm leaving now, and hung up on me. And so in the meantime, I was on the computer with the 2 granddaughters, and I received an IM through the computer, which was Mr. Hill's mom, saying all these harsh things to me. And then Mr. Hill came and blew the horn at 8 o'clock and picked up the children. And then when I got on my computer, I seen that I had 2 emails that Saturday, the day after, where Mr. Hill was apologizing for his mom. And I also have an email here stating that his mom wanted me to accept her apology as well.
So what does that have to do with anything?
Because Mr. Hill should have
to do with anything.
Mr. Hill should have called me and told me that he was going to be late and not call his mom and have his mom to IM me through the computer. It was between me and him, not me, him, and his mom.
He told me that he called you at 5 o'clock. He said his sister was in an automobile accident and he was going to be late. Didn't you just tell me that?
He said a little late.
So what? You watch, are you with your 3 grandchildren? Do you work?
No, ma'am.
So what else do you have to do? If he said he had a family emergency, what's the big deal?
Because I watched him before, and he's never picked him up until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about one particular day. You watch the children for 1 week, according to you. Where do you think you are? You watched the children for 1 week. You said he was supposed to pick them up at 7. I assume the other days he picked them up at 7. Called you the last day, said, my sister was in an automobile accident. I'm going to be a little late. And he comes to pick the children up 1 hour late. And I'm asking you, you're the grandmother. What's the big deal?
The big deal is I watched him 4 months prior to that, and I never charged anything. And
you shouldn't charge anything.
And he was coming and picking the children up at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night when it's a school night.
Then you shouldn't have volunteered to watch them again if it wasn't satisfactory arrangement. If it wasn't a satisfactory arrangement 4 months before, then you shouldn't have volunteered to watch them again. It would seem to me that if you are the mother of a deadbeat parent, which you are, because your daughter is a deadbeat, she has not sent support for her children since April of '06, that if your contribution could be helping to watch your grandchildren so that he can work and support them, you shouldn't be here today asking for $75 for babysitting services.
Well, how can my daughter be a deadbeat? She's paying child support for the grandchildren.
No,
she's also
not.
giving medical insurance for them.
He hasn't received child support from her since April of '06.
Because he keeps dropping it. It's like this. If she doesn't do what Mr. Hill wants her to do, then he'll go file it. If she does what he wants her to do, he'll drop it.
Listen to me, madam. A parent has an obligation to support children that they made. It is irrelevant to me whether it's a mother or a father. If the father has custody of the children and the mother has no children, then what she's got to do is work for it because the children need to be supported.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Right.
And
so if I was the
that.
mother of a parent who did not pay child support and my contribution could be helping to babysit with my children, I wouldn't complain because the father was an hour late because of an emergency. Now, you want to tell me the story about the mortgage?
July of last year, I moved in with my mother because I was having problems paying bills. I moved down in there, had the kids enrolled in school. Everything was going well. Tina called me maybe 4 months after I moved down there, wanting to know if she could take over our house that we had purchased together. That's fine. If she was going to do it, that was fine. I gave Tina $1,000 cash, and the $1,000 was meant to be for the mortgage payment, the electric payment, and the ground rent where we live. She paid the ground rent and the electric. She never paid the mortgage, took off with the money. And then she calls me a week later and tells me she can't afford the house. Now the mortgage payment's never been paid.
That's not true.
Don't speak.
The mortgage payment was never made. Verna started calling me, asking me to move back. I have phone records of this, how many times she's called.
I'd like to see them.
They're all highlighted in yellow. Verna
She
started
called you
calling
at your mother's house.
on my cell phone,
Or your
yes.
cell phone. Go ahead.
She called me wanting me to come back to move up there so she could be closer to the kids, because at this time I was like 150 miles away from her and her daughter. I told her, being I gave my wife Tina all this money, I didn't have money to move back. She agreed to pay the payment for me if I moved back so she could be closer to the kids and part a Christmas present, because it was November when we moved back.
Your Honor, that's not true.
You didn't want to see your grandchildren?
Your Honor, I do want to see my grandchildren. I haven't seen my grandchildren in 3 months for whatever reason. I don't know. I've seen...
You told me that you were watching them in May.
Well, it's been 2 months.
Oh,
1 or 2 months. I do know.
You told me you babysat for them in May.
1 week she did.
June 6th.
I only watched them for 1 week.
Well, that's not 2 months. 2 months haven't passed, madam.
Well...
I'm asking you, didn't you want to see your grandchildren?
Of course, I do want to see my grandchildren.
No, didn't you, when he was living 150 miles away?
Yes, I do want to.
So that if Mr. Hill says that when you spoke, you said that you would take care of the mortgage payment, are you telling me that you didn't have a discussion with him?
We did have a discussion about the mortgage payment. He told me he did not want any handouts, that he would pay it back. And I said, well, just make it in payments. And he said whatever was left, he would just pay it when he got his taxes back.
That's wrong, Your Honor.
It's wrong. I don't think I believe you, Miss Ridenour. I don't think I believe you at all. And what I find ludicrous is that you seem to have a reasonable relationship with your daughter because your daughter is here with you. And I assume that because she's here with you, you have a reasonable relationship with her. But you have 3 grandchildren. And why in the world would you want to antagonize over what amounts to no money? Certainly, you're not out any out-of-pocket money with regard to the $75 for babysitting services. Worst thing that you did was you took care of your grandchildren for a couple of days. Big deal. So the worst thing that you're out is a few $100s for a mortgage payment that allowed the grandchildren to be closer to you and your daughter. You would antagonize the custodial parent of your 3 grandchildren. Antagonize him.
Your Honor, they even called Child Protective Services on me.
No, I most certainly did not.
One of them, too.
We did not.
Since I've moved back in November.
No, I most certainly did not.
Since I moved back in November, them 2 are the only ones that have been in my house. When I was moving back, I was carrying a dresser down my hallway. I tripped and my back hit the wall, which put a hole in the wall like about that big. Whoever called Child Protective Services told them that I was abusive, that I didn't have food in the house, that the kids were going to school dirty, the hole in the wall, stuff, you know, just made up a bunch of stuff about me. Well, Child Protective Services have a lady in my kids' school all day, every day.
That is not true, Your Honor.
This lady sees my kids all day, every day. The lady pulled the kids out of class, asking them a bunch of questions, if I ever hit them, if we have food. And the call went through to Child Protective Services on April 16th. April 12th is when we went to court for child support.
Gotcha.
That was the following Monday.
Gotcha.
Thursday, when we went to court on the 12th, that next day was Friday. That's the day she agreed she didn't want to watch kids no more.
Gotcha. Your case is dismissed, Mr. Rittenauer, and I would suggest you try very hard to make up with Mr. Hill so that you can see your grandchildren. That's all. Goodbye.